In previous video, we successfully created feed toggler to switch between our feeds. Now it's time to start new feature in our application, and this is the rendering of single article. So let's jump right into it. As you can see here in demo real-world.io, in our feed we have articles, and we can click on some article to jump inside single article page. And we have here the URL article/slug. Actually, I would like to have here /articles because it is normally how slugs and routes are creating. And here we have our page. So here is a banner with title of this article, with author of this article, with link, and here you have button follow and favorite, and there is actually one more button delete article. We don't see it here because we are not the author of this article. Now we have here body and tags, and actually this is the same tags like we have in the feed, so maybe we need to create additional component later to reuse this component between two pages. Now here on the bottom we have a comments section. We won't do it for now, we will just stick to the top part of the article, and of course we are fetching this article on page reload. So when I'm reloading the page, you can see here that we have a request for /API/articles, and here is the slug of our article. And this is get, and here inside article property, we get a lot of information like title, created at, favorites favorited, author, and our tag list. So exactly this information we need to fetch from the backend in order to render our article. Now there are as always 3 levels for you to proceed. First one is hard. You can just try and implement this page on your own. If you want to do this now, just pause this video and continue to check it later. The next level is medium, and here are some suggestions. So just to remind you, we created in our route already a link, so it is /articles/slug, and you can use and create one more view for our single article page. There inside you need to fetch this request from the backend that I showed you, and then store this information in the Vuex, and I would create additional property like article, where inside we will have all standard information like data is loading and error. Also, we need additional API folder like API file with JavaScript, and there we will have our methods to work with article like get article, remove article, update article, but for now we have only get article. So then we need an action to create inside our article inside Vuex, so we can in our module get an action, dispatch it, and then get some data and save them with mutations. So if you want to proceed it on medium, then just pause video now and try to do it by yourself. And here is easy level for you, we can do it together. So first of all, let's start with API. So inside the API folder, we can create new article.js file, and inside we can import Axios from @API Axios. Now here we will have a lot of methods to work with entity article. So for example, later we will create article page or edit article page, and there we will have methods like update article or remove article. So all this stuff will go in this file. But for now we just have get article method, and we know that we need slug in order to get it. And here we can return Axios get, and here will be our URL. So it will be /articles, and here will go our slug. So we just concatenate articles with our slug. And then we can actually do the same like we did previously with popular tags. Here we can normalize data directly here. So I can write here then, and I'm getting here the response, and I can say that I need directly response.data.article. And I really like to do this approach because in this case I don't need to normalize my data inside Vuex, and this is really a good way to go. So you are normalizing your data in the scope of API. Now we want to export here our default object, and we have only one method for now. This is get article. So this is our API to get an article, and now we can proceed with creating our Vuex. So let's jump inside store modules, and here we will have a new property article, so we need new article module. And I will open here, for example, popular tags, and as you understand, we can actually copy it fully. Why is that? Because we have state, we have data is loading an arrow, and we are getting article and we want to store it inside data. We also have is loading to show the spinner for user, and we have 3 mutations like for start, success and failure, we have an action to get an article, and we have mutations which are looking exactly the same, like for example for popular tags. And here we have one action where we fetch our article. So actually I would like to copy the whole file and paste it here inside article, because it doesn't make any sense to write it down from scratch, because you already saw this and I want to focus on things that you didn't. So first of all, here we want to change our API file, so it will be article API, and it comes from /API/article. And here we have the same state. So just to remind you, I'm using the same state everywhere when I'm fetching the same entities. So here we have our mutation, and it will be not get popular tags, but get article, start, success and failure. And here we need get article, and we don't need tags. And now here, we also have get article, and we don't need tags. And here we will have article, and we have get article failure. So here are 3 our mutations, and the important part is here to change the prefix, because we are now in module article. So our mutations are there. Now regarding action, we will have action get article. So of course later we will have more actions, but for now it is enough. So here we have article, and what we are doing here, we have get article. Now a little bit about mutations. As always, is loading in the beginning and data is fine. So here will be get article start, then get article success, and here get article failure. And what we are doing inside is completely correct. So here on success, for example, we are getting payload and we are writing it inside data. Now let's change our action. So our action will be action types dot get article. And here will be a promise, and the point is that in this moment we need a little bit to change the code, because we want here to get a slug from our component, because we are loading our component and component has access to the route. So here we want to provide a second parameter, and here we will have params. They are coming from our component, and we need this in order to provide slug, which we can read from the route inside our component. So here we are passing parameters with property slug. And now here we can commit our mutation type get article start, and here will be article API get article, and here we are passing inside get article our slug, which we get from our component. And now we are getting back our article. Just to remind you, we normalize data, so it's not a response but really an article. And here we want to commit get article success and to pass here our article. And we want to resolve here our article. And if we are catching an error, we want here to have get article failure. And this is our action. And now we are exporting everything that we prepared. So we can add it directly inside our modules here, because our modules is created. So here is our article from add store modules article. And now here we can add our article and check if it's working. So let's reload the page. And as you can see in inspector, we don't have any errors. Yes, so now we can jump inside Vuex. Actually, we'll have some error, but this is like super strange. If you see these errors, this normally means that somebody uploaded some image inside article, which can't be readable. As you can see, this is some strange website here, so it's not the error that we did by ourselves. So here we can look inside Vue and here inside Vuex. And if we will check our base state, you can see that we now have a property article, and here we have data, error, and is loading, which means we successfully binded our new module article, we prepared everything, and we just need to create our component and render it inside route in order to use the view state that we prepared here. For this, let's create now our new view. So here inside views, we can create article page. So here will be our article view, and let's first add some basic template. So here we're creating our template, and after it we're creating a script. So here in template we can simply write div with the content article, and here in our script export default and object, and here inside we have name, MCV, and here will be article. Now let's jump inside our routes and fix our route. And just to remind you, we created previously all routes, and here is the route that we're talking about. So here is /article/slug, and the name is article. So the component here should be article that we just created. Now I want here to import article from add views, and here will be article. And actually I think we can omit view, but I wrote it here everywhere. It actually doesn't matter, it works the same. So now when we reload the page, we can simply click in some article here, and then we are on /article/test, so here is the slug, and here our component article is rendered. And as you can see, we don't have any banner here because we just wrote it only in feeds, and we have another banner for our single page here. So our article page is created. Now we need to bind our Vuex with our article page. So here inside article we can get some stuff from our Vuex, like properties that we need, and we also need on initial load to get our article. So first of all, here I want to import map state from Vuex. Now here we can add computed property, and inside we have here spread of map state. And as always, we need here three properties. First of all is loading, and it will come from state.article.isLoading. Then we copy paste this, and we have here our article, and it comes from state article data, and we have here error, which is coming from state article error. So here are our three properties from Vuex. We successfully created them. And now we need one more property mounted. So when we create this component, we want to dispatch an action. So here we can write this store dispatch, and we want here to dispatch our get article action that we created. So first of all, here I will import our action types from, and here we will have add store modules, and here will be our article. So here we can dispatch now article action types dot get article. And the important thing that we need here to provide params, because we said that we need to provide an object with slug inside. And the question is how we can get this slug. And we already did it, for example, with our tags. So here to get a slug, we can simply write this route params slug. And we know if this page is rendered, we always have here slug in our URL. So this is exactly this parameter here that we are passing inside. So let's check if it's working. So we reload the page here, and in network, we can see that we have a request /API/articles, and here is our slug. And it is 200, and here is the response. So we successfully got the article from the backend, and here in our Vuex, you can see we have get article start and get article success. And here is in payload, we have our article. So here in our base state now, we have inside data, inside the article data, we have our object with article. So we binded our data, so we can just render it directly inside our template. So now the boring part, we need to write our template. So let's start with it. We have div class article page. Now inside first div we have div class banner, and actually it's not the same banner that it was on feed, so we can't reuse it. And now inside div class banner we have our div class container, and here we want to render this container only if we have article. This is why here I will write if article, because we are getting article as you can see in the computed properties here. Now let's close this div, and inside this div write h1 tag, and here will be our article. So we are sure inside that we have an article because we wrote if. This is why here we can simply write article title, and after this it will be meta information. So here will be div class article meta. Now we are closing our div, and inside div we can write our link. So it will be link for user profile to have an image inside. So we want to have route link, and here will be to, where it will be an object with name user profile. We already did it previously, and here are params. And in params we want to pass our slug, and we have a slug of the author inside article author.username. So actually username and slug are the same. So here we are closing our route link, and we don't have any classes here. And now inside route link we want to write an image. So here we will have image source, and here will be article author image. And now we just close our image. So this is our route link, and then after route link we will have div class info, and let's close this div. And inside info class we just write the same router link. So I will copy it to avoid writing the same. And here we have router link to user profile, also with params username, but inside we don't have an image, but simply article.author.username. This is it. So we successfully created info, and now here we need to write a span with class date. And here we are closing our span, and we want to render the date when this article was created. So article.createdAt. This is it. Now after the div here we need to render some links. So we will render two links, edit article and delete article. But the point is that we need to show these links only when we are the author. For now I will just render them as it is, and in next video we will add this logic. So here we have span, and then here we have route link, and it will have class button, button outline, secondary, and here will be button small, and here we have two. And here we have an object with the name, and here we have a router link to our edit article page. So here we have the name edit article. We already prepared it in our router, and here we have params. And in params we have slug, and it will be article.slug. And now we need to close our router link. Now Pretty is doing everything for us, so it looks pretty. Now inside we have icon with class ion edit, and here we simply close our eye. And I think I'm missing something. Yes, I forget to close router link. At least I closed it not correctly, so it should not be the close tag here, but here. And now after our icon we want to write here edit article. And here is the first link for edit article, and the next one will be button. So here we have button with class, and here will be button, button outline danger, and here will be button small. Now we're closing this button, and inside will be icon, and then delete article text. So here icon, ion trash A, we're closing the icon, and inside delete article. So as you can see, I don't have any logic now with if we need to show these buttons or not, what will happen when we click this button. So we just render our markup, and we will create and configure these buttons in the next video. Now I just want to write the markup until the end. So here we have span div, 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 and here at the bottom we want div with class, and here will be our container page. So this is the main part of our application, which goes here on the bottom. So here is the body and here are tags. And actually, as you can see, this is how it looks now for us. So here our top part of the page is already there and is looking quite good. So here we have container page, and inside we have first of all loader. And as you remind, we have an additional component for loader and for arrow. So we need to import them here in order to show while we are loading our article. So here we want to use MCV loading from add components, and here we have loading component with big L. Now we want also to add here MCV error message, and it comes from components error message. Now we can use both of them here inside container. So we want here to have MCV loading, and we only show it if we have here loading, actually is loading. And we are closing here MCV loading. Actually, we can close it like self-close tag because we don't have a content inside. Now we want to do the same for our MCV error message, and inside we can pass an error. So previously we didn't, but actually we can do it like message equals error, because we know that at some point we maybe will build there a message, and this is why we are getting it constantly in every component. So here is our error, and if we have it, it is a string, so we will pass it here. After an error, we have now a div where we will render our content. So here we will have row article content, and here we have if article, so this part we are rendering only when we have an article. And inside this div, we will have div class call xs12, and we close this div. And now inside this div, we will render our div with p inside. So here we will have p tag, and inside will be article.body, so the content of the article. And after this div, we want to render a tag list. So we don't have it yet, so I will just write here tag list is here, and we will create it later. Now let's check if it's working. So as you can see in browser, I have errors that we didn't use loading and error message because I forgot to add them to our components object. So here we have an object, and we need to import here MCV loading and MCV error message. Now we should not get an error. Actually, we have some errors. Here we have an error that unknown custom element MCV loading. This is really strange. I think we need full reload. If you have such strange message, this can happen that you didn't really reload the page, but Vue by itself, Vue CLI, just updated the content without fully updating the page. And then you can get strange messages, so just reload the page fully. As you can see here, our page really looks like here. So we can actually try to open exactly the same slug because we're using the same API, and this is how it will look like. So here we have our how to train our dragon. Here is the title. It looks exactly the same. I zoomed a page a little bit. This is why it's not 100% the same. So here we have our user, the date, edit article, and delete article. The only point is that edit article doesn't look correct. We don't have outline here, so we can fix it in a second. And here is our text, like here that's the body, and on the bottom we will implement a tag list later. So the only point is that we need to fix some class inside edit article. So here we have button pull line. I think here it's not correct. It should be here button outline. So here should be button outline secondary. And now, as you can see, edit article is looking correctly, and actually the URL is also correct. It's /article/slug and then /edit. So as you can see, when we reload the page, we have our loading, and then we see the whole page. So how it is happening? Here we simply say on mounting that we are dispatching our action, then we binded our three properties with article from the Vuex, and now here we simply wrote a markup which is rendered only when we have an article. This is it. And this is how normally we're super fast, in less than 20 minutes, are building new pages. First of all, creating service, like working with API, then creating Vuex, and then binding this Vuex to our page. In previous video, we successfully created our article page, but we didn't implement correctly edit and delete button because there is a lot of logic regarding it inside. So let's jump right into it. So what we want to do first is check how it looks like in our demo. So as you can see here, we can jump to specific article, but here we don't see these buttons that we created, and we created button edit and delete. So if we will jump inside new article and just check, I am in demo, not in our project, because we don't have creating of the article yet. I will create new article, and now as you can see, I have this edit and delete buttons. Now I want to use this slug inside our project. So here I have /articles, and I will paste here this slug. Why we are doing this? Because we want to omit our step with creating article, because we don't have it yet, and just create article in demo and then work with it and configure this edit and delete buttons in our project. So here, this is my post that I created inside this demo project. But I am anonymous now, so actually I should not see these buttons at all, and I should see them only when I am logged in as a user. So we need to write here some logic to check this. So what do we need for this? Actually, we need to compare the username slug of our article with our current user. And actually article we already have here, as you can see in map state, but we don't have here current user data, so we can compare it. And we can actually use for this map getters. And just to remind you, I will open here our top bar. You can see how we used here map getters. So in exactly the same way, we can import here map getters and now use a getter to get current user. Obviously, we can simply write stay.auth.currentUser, but we want to avoid this when we have getter for it. So here we want a spread, and here we will have map getters, and we want here to get current user, and here we want to use getter types, and here we will have current user. But here is one important problem. So as you can see here, we have getter types and we have on the top action types. But actually action types are coming from the article and getter types are coming from the auth. Yes, we can leave it like this. So here is add, store, modules, and here is auth. But the problem is that we don't really get from where we have action types and getter types. And in some components it was normal, because there we only worked with single entity, like for example with auth, but here we have two of them. This is why when I have two different modules from the store, in one component I prefer the naming that will be 100% clear for me. So we can say here action types as article action types. And now we have local variable, not action types here, but article action types. So I will rename here our action in article action types .get article. And now it's much more clearer from where these action types are coming. Now I want to do the same for getters. So here are getter types as auth getter types. And now it is clear what we are doing here. So here is auth getter types dot current user. And actually maybe you want to write like this in every component. This is up to you. So for now we have here our article through map state and our current user through getter. So we have both our computed properties, and actually to check if we are an author or not, we can create new computed property for this. So let's create computed property is author, and this is a function, and we want here to return some logic. But first of all, just to remind you, getting an article and getting a current user are two asynchronous processes, which means by default article is null and current user is null. And then at some point we're fetching article and current user. But as they're completely asynchronous, we can get something later, something earlier, so we need to cover all these possibilities. And this is quite easy to do. We can simply say here that if we don't have current user or we don't have article, then we simply return false. This is it. So in this case, we just omit all problems with current user and article because we simply have an additional check at the beginning. Now, what we write here will be really regarding existing current user that we for sure fetched and existing article. So here we can simply compare this current user dot username, and just to remind you, this is actually a slug, and here this article author username. So we simply compare usernames. Normally, in some projects, usernames are not unique, so basically it's useless to compare them, but not in our projects because for us they are unique. So what we are doing here, we have new computed property is author, and we want to compare if username of current user equals username of the author. So if this line returns true, this means that we are an author. And to avoid mistakes that current user is null or article is null, we simply return false if something is not there yet. So now we created our isAuthor based on the current user from our getter and article from map state. And now we can simply write if condition for these two links. So here we have span, and this is a parent element for two router links. So we can simply write here if is author. This is it. So now we should see this link here only if we are logged in. And as you can see, I don't see these links anymore because I am not logged in. So now let's sign in, and I will just use my credentials. And now we need to jump inside article that we created. It is still here, this is my user, so I will click on it. And as you can see, I see now buttons edit and delete. So this means that I'm an author. Let's check it with another article. For example, I am jumping in the article that doesn't belong to me, and I don't have this button. So you can see how easy it is to create new computed properties based on some Vuex getters or Vuex states, because we just work with plain properties. Now we are missing delete the article. Actually, with edit is easy. Here we can see that we have an edit button. We simply click on it and we are going in edit page. This is it. But with delete article it is more complex because actually delete means that we need to make a request to our API and say that we want to delete such article. Then our API will check if we are allowed to do this and give us back unauthorized or success request. So to make a delete, actually we need to create an API, we need to create new Vuex action and mutation and so on, so all this standard stuff. So let's simply and fast create it now. So first of all, we need to jump inside the API article, because as I already said, we will pack all methods to work with article inside article.js. So here we want to create new method delete article, and we are deleting our articles by slug. So here we need just to return our axios delete, and here will be our URL. So here will be /articles/slug. This is it. And here we should not forget to add delete article to our object that we're returning. So this is our API, and now we need to create some mutations and actions. So let's jump in store modules article, and as you can see here on the top, we have 3 mutation types to get an article, and now we need 3 mutations to delete an article. Because this is a synchronous process, this is why we need start, success, and failure. So as always, we are copy-pasting it, and now we just say delete article, start, success, and failure, and here instead of get, we will have delete. So here are our 3 mutation types, nothing new here, and we need to create new action type. So here we want delete article, and here we also want to rename it to delete article. So our action type is there, and now the question is, what do we change in our state when we're making this mutation? And as you can see, we have here data is loading and error. This is information regarding this article. But actually, when we are deleting something, we don't need to do anything at all, because we will simply redirect the user on the other page, like on home page, for example, and we actually don't care what will happen with our state of the article, because we are not in this page anymore. But we can't simply omit creating mutations, because if we won't define mutations here in our mutations object, then our mutations just don't exist. This is why we need here to write our empty mutations. In other case, you will get an error that mutation does not exist. So here we need to write delete article start, and here we can simply write empty function. And we need to do the same with delete article success and failure. And this is important to do, in other case your mutations just won't exist. So our mutations are there, they don't do anything, but actually they are there if we need to change something with our state. Now regarding action, we have our action and we can simply copy paste it, because it will look exactly the same. So here is our action type, and here we will have delete article, and we get a slug from our component. So this is exactly how we fetched it. Now we will remove it with the same logic. So here is context commit, and we're committing mutation type delete article start. Now instead of get article in API, we're making delete article, and we are providing slug inside. Now back we don't get anything, because actually we don't need to get anything. Now here will be our delete article success, and we don't provide anything in our mutation, because we don't have something to provide. And here we just resolve without any data, and in catch we have our delete article failure. This is it. So as you can see, it is quite empty here, but we still need to create these mutations in order to see when we start something, when we finish something, is it success or failure. So we need this stuff, but it is quite empty for now. So here we created everything that we need for our Vuex. Now it's time just to use it inside our component. So let's jump back inside our component, and it was article. And what we want to do is attach a click inside our button. So here is our button, and we can add here click, and here, for example, we will have a method delete article. And now we need to create this method. So here after mounted, let's create methods property, and inside we will have delete article method. So now, inside our delete article, we can simply call this store dispatch and dispatch here our created action. So article action types dot delete article, and here we are providing an object with slug property, and here will be this route param slug. And as you can see, this is the same this route param slug as we used in mounted. So maybe it makes sense to move it to computed property. After this, we want here then, and just to remind you, we can write here then because we wrote promise inside our Vuex. So on then, this means success, so article was successfully deleted. We want to redirect the user to this router push, and here is our global feed. So as you can see, it doesn't make any sense for user to be on this page after we deleted the article, because this article doesn't exist anymore. This is why on success deleting, we want to redirect user to the home page. And this is it. This is our delete article. So we simply dispatch here our action, and on success, we're making route redirect. So let's check if it's working. So here is my article, I see delete article. Now when I click delete article button, as you can see, I am going directly on home page. And here in network, we can see our request. So here was the request for delete. So here is delete with /article /slug. And here in preview, we don't get anything back, just empty object. and inside Vuex we can see our mutations. So here was delete article start and delete article success. And it doesn't matter that payload here is undefined. Of course we can provide something, but the most important part that we can at least check what mutations we have and what maybe errors we see here. So here are two delete article actions, actually mutations, and then we get stuff that we are getting from the home page. So actually we already created our delete article method, first in the Vuex, then inside our API, and now we used it inside component. So as always, it is quite easy with Vuex because everything is global and we can use it from every place. In previous video, we successfully created our delete button and added Vuex actions to it. In this video, I want to do last polishing with article page and our feed, and we are missing really small component tag list. So let's jump right into it. So what is tag list? Here I am in demo real world.io, and in the feed on the right, sometimes you can see the list of tags which are related to the article. And these are the list of tags which are just plain strings, and we are getting them inside the article object. The same thing we have if we will open the article, then under the body we see here the list of tags. And this is exactly a nice small task for you to do it by yourself. And as always, we have 3 levels. So first of all is hard, just pause this video now and try to do it by yourself. Second level, medium, this is some advices for me how to do it. So as tag list is a shareable component, we need to put it inside components in source folder. Then in this component we will have one prop, which means basically our component will be stateless and we will just provide inside one property this tag list, and this is array of strings. And then with the help of the loop we need to render this tag list. This is it. And now the easy level for you. Let's just do it together. So what we want to do first is jump inside source components, and here we want to create tag list view. Now inside, first of all we need a template, and then we need our script. So what do we have inside our script? First of all we need to export this component, so export default, and here is our object, and our name will be mcv tag list. And now what we want to write here is our prop. So we have here props, and we are saying that we need to pass here, for example, tags. And tags is our array of strings. So here we say that type is array and required is true, because without this array our component can't work. Now inside template we need to render our markup for tag list. And here we have our UL with class tag list. Now we're closing UL, and inside our UL we will have our lease with the loop. So here is lee v4, and here we have tag in tags. So tags are our property from the props, and now we have here key because we are sure that tag is unique. And now we need here to put class tag default and then tag pill. And let's just close our lee. And actually one more class here, tag outline. And inside lee we simply want to render our tag. This is it. So this is our small tag list component. Now we just need to use it inside our feed. So here it is. We can import on the top our tag list. So here is mcv tag list from add components tag list. And now we need to add this component to our components. So here will be our mcv tag list. And now here on the top you see placeholder for our tag list inside feed. So here we need to say mcv tag list, and we need to provide inside tags. And what is tags? This is article dot tag list. This is it. So this is our small component where inside we are providing the array of strings. So let's check if it's working. So here I am on the home page. Here is global feed. So here is our feed that we changed. And somewhere here we have on the right tag list. As you can see, it is there and it is rendered, which means our component was created successfully. Now we want to do the same stuff and render tag list inside the article. So we can copy this line and jump inside our article, in Views, Article, and here somewhere on the top we have tag list is here. This is where we want to paste tag list. And I also will copy how we imported it. And now we need to add MCV tag list to the object of our components here. So here in our article we have tag list, we imported it, and we rendered it under our body. And we also provided inside tags from article.taglist. Now, as you can see in browser, here under our body, we have rendered component with the array of tags which are related to this article. So in this video, we successfully created our small but reusable component tag list, where we're rendering the list of tags which are related to our article. In this video, we're starting another big feature, and this is creating and updating of our article and implementing article form. So let's jump right into it. Here am I in Demo Real World.io and I am logged in. This is why I can create new article. So here is the link and this is our form. So when we create an article, we jump to separate page where we can fill this form and actually click publish. And we also have backend validation here like we had in login and register. And after we are filling all our properties here, and then we click publish, we are jumping to our article page. And after this we can click edit article and we are coming actually in edit mode. So our form is looking the same, but we have all data and you can see this slug on the top. This is exactly the slug of our article that we already saved just to know what article to load to predefine all data inside our form. So this is our goal. And the question is how we will implement it. As you can see, we have the same form for create and edit, but obviously we have different things. For example, when we create article, there is a post request with data of the form to our backend. If it is update article, first of all, we need to fetch an article, and then when we're making an update, we need to make a put request to our backend. Which means actually create and update are different, but the form inside is kind of the same. This is why my idea is to build additional shareable component which is article form, and it is completely stateless and we have this form inside and we just propagate data in and out. And this is exactly what I want to build in this video. So first of all, let's jump here in our editor and in source router, we can see here our routes. And we have here two routes, /article/new, this is for create, and we have /article/slug/edit, this is for edit. So first of all, I want to create a view and name it create article.view. So this is our first wrapper where inside we will use our article form. So first of all, let's render at least something so we can see that everything is binded. So here is our template and here is our script, and we're exporting here an object where we will have a name and it will be MCV create article. We don't need anything here for now, and inside I will simply write div create article. Now let's save this, and we need in our router to update this link. So here we have component global feed. This is not correct. Here we need component create article. And now on the top we need to import it. So here is import create article from @views create article. .view, or actually doesn't matter. And now let's jump inside our project and we can first of all log in and secondly start creating the article. So here is my credentials And now on the top I have a new article. I am clicking here, and as you can see, create article page is rendered here, which means we successfully binded this Vue component to our page. And now the question is about article form. So as I said, we want to make it shareable. So first of all, I want to discuss with you what properties does it need, and then when we define our API, we can create this shareable component. So let's say here in our create article that we want to use this component. So let's see how it will look like. So here is MCV article form, and this is stateless form, which means we don't have anything inside, we don't have any API request or something. It is just stateless, and we provide something from the outside. So what we want to provide? First of all, we want to provide initial values. Why is that? Because when we are in edit mode, we need to propagate all values that we are getting on getArticle inside our form. So for this, we will create initial values. And let's say here that this is initial values. And secondly, I want to create here data just for testing purposes, and inside return some properties. For example, initial values. And we know that inside our form here, we can check it. We have, first of all, article title, then description, then body and tags. So let's write it here now. We have title, which is empty string for now. Then we have description, it's empty string. Then we have body empty string and tag list. And actually tag list will be an array of strings, because as you saw previously, we created our tag list component and it was an array of strings. So these are our initial values. If we don't have any, so we are in create mode, then we are passing them like this, like you see here. And if we are in edit, then we are passing real values. The next thing that I want to give inside is errors. Why is that? Because here when we click publish article, actually in the edit, as you saw, we don't have any validation errors because the article is already saved, and then when we don't pass any information for the backend, backend just doesn't do anything and ignores it. But in new article we have here validation errors. So we want to show them inside our form. This is why we need to get them from backend and give inside our article form. So here we will have our errors, and let's say that it will be validation errors. And it can be that this is null, or by default actually this will be undefined, but I think we will get an error that validation errors is not defined. This is why I will put it here to null, just that we have it for testing purposes. The next point is submitting property, and actually we want to disable this button when we are making a request. But our article form doesn't know anything about API, so we need to say from the outside that we are in submitting mode now. So here will be is submitting, and let's say here will be is submitting property, and let's also set it, for example, to false. Now the last property that we need here is actually action. So we need submit action. We want, when the form is submitted, to get in the parent, for example in create article, this event and all data. So here we need add, and here will be article submit, for example, and here is on submit callback. So now we need to add here our on submit callback inside our methods. So here will be on submit, and here we will get some data. We don't have anything for now, but it doesn't matter. So here will be console log on submit data. And this is exactly how I am planning to create article form. So it is completely stateless. We provide the initial values if we have them, then we can give inside errors if we have them, and is submitting can be true or false depending in what state we are, and then when we are submitting form, we are giving this data outside with article submit function. This is it. Now, when we defined our API for the component, we can start by creating our component. So this is shareable component, then it should go in source components. And let's name it article form.view. First of all, here we will have some template, and after this it will be script, and here we are defining our component. So here is our export default, and here is the name, and it will be MCV article form. Now we need to specify all props, and I will open them here on the right so you can see what our component needs. First of all, it's initial values, and we know that this is an object. We can see it on the right. So here is type object, and we say required true. Why is that? Because I don't want inside to make check-ins if our initial values object is null, for example. So we're defining that everybody, if they want to use article form, need to give all properties inside. And if these properties are empty, this is fine, but still we need to give initial values inside. After this, we have errors. So errors is actually an object. So type is object, and required is false, because it can be null, for example. Then we have is submitting, and is submitting will be boolean, so type boolean, and required is true, because either it is true or it is false, but still we need to give a value. And now we have our callback, our method, but we won't specify it here because we will simply emit it through this emit. So these are actually our properties, but I forget to write here props, so everything should go inside props. This is how we define props. Our props are there. Now we need some data, because we have vModel with the form, but actually let's first start with the template and then you will see it. And just to remind you, we already created a form for login and register, and there we simply wrote several properties with data binding, with data and vModel. So here we will have div class editor page. Now we're closing our div, and inside we will have div class container page, and we're closing next div, and inside it will be div class row, and inside row we will have call, so div class call md10 and offset md1 and call xs12. So it will be on the center, and then when we have small screen, it will be full width. And now inside this div, we will first have validation errors. And actually we already have this component. I just don't want now to spend time and inject this component. So after validation errors, we will have form. So here we will have submit, prevent, and here will be on submit. So we already used form, so I won't stop here, because you know how submit prevent is working. Now inside we have our field set, and let's close our field set. And inside our field set we have our first field set with class form group. Now let's close our field set, and inside field set we will have our input. So here will be input, which is type text, and now we have class form control and form control LG. And now we have our placeholder, and it will be article title. And after this we need vModel, and this is exactly what I said. So we want two-way data binding here. This is why we are binding this input to the property vModel title. So here we need to create data, and inside this data we will return our form. So here the first property will be title, and it will be empty string by default. And then here when we will change our input, this value will be changed there. So here is our first field set. I will copy paste it, because the next will be the same. The next one is description. So here is text, and the only difference is that in placeholder we have description, and in vModel we also have description. Now at the bottom I want to add here description, which is also empty string. Now I will copy this field set again, But in this case, it won't be an input, but it will be text area, because here we have our body. So here we have text area, so we don't need type text. Everything is staying the same. In description, we will have what is this article about. And the model will be body. And now we need to close our text area. So here is text area. And we are good to go. Now we need to create body property here. So body empty string. And after this we have, actually not, I missed it. So here we have the body, and it will be text area. And the placeholder here will be write your article. And now, after our body, we need here one more field set, so let's copy it. Actually, better to copy input and not text area, because it will be input. And the last field set will be for our tag names. So here input is text is fine, and then the model will be tag list, and our placeholder will be enter tags. So our form is ready, and the last part that we need here is a button. So here will be our field set with class form group, and inside we will have a button. So here button with type submit, because it's for submitting our form, and then we have class button, button LG, pull XS right, and button primary. Now we also need class disabled, because we want to get from outside is submitting property, and we're getting it through props, so we can use it here to disable the button. Now let's close our button, and inside the button just write publish article. So this is our form. As you can see, nothing really special. Validation errors on the top, we will make it later. Now we have form, we have inputs, and we have the model. The only thing here we're still missing is tag list, and tag list will be also empty string. Now let's check if it's working. Obviously not, because we didn't render our component inside our wrapper. So first of all, I want to jump to create article. And this is actually strange that we don't have any errors here, because we added MCV article form, but it is not rendered here. So let's open the console, maybe we have some errors. Yes, we have unknown custom element MCV article form. So we need to import it here. So here we are importing MCV article form from add components article form. With big A, of course. And now we need to add it inside our components. So here is an object components, and inside we have MCV article form. So when we reload the page, you can see that our form is there. Of course, it's a little bit zoomed. So here we have our form, our validation errors, we will render them later, and now here are our form fields. So we have 4 fields, we can fill them, and when we click publish article, we actually didn't create this function. So first of all, let's create this function. After this, we need to create methods property, and inside we need on submit property. And here first, let's try to write just console log. So here on submit, and when we now reload the page and click publish article, you can see that we see on submit. Now we want to really emit something. So this is why here we can write, first of all, we need to prepare all properties from our form. So let's say that we have form, and here is title is this title. Then we have description, which is this description. Now we have body, and this is this body, and now we have our tag list, and our tag list is this dot tag list. So here is our form, it is prepared, and now we simply can use emit from Vue. And if you don't remember, emit is the thing how we can communicate with the parent. So actually when we wrote here in create article this add article submit, this is exactly how we handle emits from the child. So here we want to emit exactly article submit function, and we want to pass here form. This is it. In this case, we can subscribe to this emit in the parent. So let's check if it's working. We reload the page, we write something in our form, we click publish, and this is actually on submit from our parent. So now inside our parent, we can get all properties from our article form. So as you can see, we successfully created article form. It's of course a little bit raw and we need to tune it to match good with create article and edit article, but this is our raw idea and it is really working. In previous video, we successfully created article form, but it is quite raw and we need to bind it with create article and also prepare a Vuex state for create article. So let's jump right into it. So actually what we are missing now is the place where we will store all data. The question is what data we want to store. At least here we will publish an article, which means we will have a submitting property. Also we want on the top to show our validation errors, so we also need to store them somewhere. And actually we can create the shareable state in Vuex for create article and edit article, but I don't want to do this, because for me it's two different things and we can of course mix them, but it won't bring us that much benefit. So we did it in auth and there it was fine, but actually for two different pages I want for now to create two Vuex states, one for create article, one for edit article. So let's start first of all with create article. And the first thing that I want to do here is to fix our article form and validation messages. So here on the top we have a simple validation error string and we want here to write and use our shareable component. So we can use here MCV validation errors and we want to render them only if we have our errors. And just to remind you, we are getting errors from outside. So our article form doesn't know anything about these errors. And we want inside to give our validation errors as a property and it will be our errors. Now let's close our validation errors. So this is how it looks like, but we need also to add here import. So we want to import our MCV validation errors from add components, and here we have validation errors with big V of course. And now inside our components, we don't have them yet, so here we can create components property, and here we want to add our MCV validation errors. So let's check if we have any errors. As you can see, we don't have any errors, and we can try to actually render some errors from outside. So for this we need to jump in create article, and here where we have validation errors we can simply say that we have an object, and here is for example email, and we have here array of strings, for example email can't be blank. And let's save this, and now as you can see we are getting this message. Of course here email is twice because the key should be used inside validation errors, and here normally from backend we just get can't be blank. So it is looking like this. So as you can see our validation errors are working. So let's change it back to null, and now we need to bind our create article properties with Vuex state. So first of all we need to create Vuex state for create article. So let's jump in source store modules and create here new module create article.js. And let's open something to compare, for example popular tags, because a lot of stuff here will look the same. As you can see here on the top, the first thing that we need to do is to use API call. But we didn't create it yet, so we need here to jump back in source API article, and actually here we can create our new method, which will create an article on our API. So here we want create article method, and we are passing inside something like article input. And I really like to name all things that I'm passing to API with the word input. Then it is clear that this is input for our API, like a body, so like request. And now here inside I want to return, and here we will have Axios post, and it will be a post request for our articles. It's too much. So here we have /articles, and here will be our article input. But also it's really important here that we want to use then, because we don't want to get a response back, but we want to normalize it. So here we're getting the response, and it is actually the same, like for example in get article. So we want here from response to get directly article. This is why we are writing it like this. So we have then, and then we are reading article from data. Now we can export here our create article method. Now let's jump back inside our create article module and open here popular tags on the right. So as you understand here, we will have a lot of stuff the same, like state, mutations, actions, and so on, but I won't copy it from popular tags, because actually, for example, our state will look different. Because here, as I already said, we need only isSubmitting property, which by default is false, and we need validation errors, and by default they are null. Now here we need to create our action types, mutation types, and then actions and mutations. So first of all, let's create mutation types. This we can actually copy paste because it's too much to type and it doesn't make sense to type. So here we want to name it, not get popular tags, but actually create article, start, success, and failure. So let's name it here create article, start, success, and failure, and here will be not get popular tags, but create article, start, then here create article success, and create article failure. And our module here will be create article. Let's change it in success and failure also. And now our action type. So here we have create article action, and our module is create article, and here we have string create article. So this is our action types, mutation types. Let's check what we need later. We need mutations and actions. And actually, let's copy mutations because typing is not really my thing. So here we have our mutations, and we can use our mutation types. And here we will have create article start, and on start we want to change our isSubmitting to true. This is it. So here is our isSubmitting true. Now here we have our create article success, and actually on success we simply need to change this property back because we don't care about payload. Because we just create an article, we know what data we gave inside, and after create we simply want to redirect a user to our article page. So we don't need anything. Here we have state isSubmitting, and here will be false, which was fine actually, and we don't need any data here. And now we have failure, and actually failure we need to cover because we are getting payload back, and inside this payload we will have our validation errors. So here we have state isSubmitting and state validation error equals payload. So these are our mutations, and now we simply need an action and export. So I will copy it from popular tags, and now let's create our action. So here we have action types dot create article, and here we have context and article input. And actually article input is a property that we will give from our form from component. And as always, I am writing it here as an object, because if we later want to add more properties inside the objects, it's easy to do. Now we have here new promise, and we want here first to commit create article start, and then here we need to use our create article API, but we didn't import it here. Now we are calling create article method, and we are passing inside article input. And on success we are getting an article back, and here we can commit mutation create article success. And actually we can even put here our article. And here we are resolving an article. And now on catch we want in mutation types to mutate create article failure, and we need to give errors inside. So for this here we need to write result, for example, and here it will be result.response.data.errors. As you can see, we have only one problem, that this create article API is not there. Actually, it's not create article API, but just article API, because we name it like the scope what is working with entity article. So here on the top, we need to import our article API from @API/article. So now we successfully created our Vuex state, and we just need to bind it inside Vuex. So here in store index.js, we can import create article from @store modules create article. And now in our modules, we can add create article property. So as you can see, I don't have any errors in web server, so let's reload the page. Now inside Vuex, we should have new property in our base state. So here somewhere, let's reload the page once again. So here inside our base state, we can see create article, and here are only two properties, is submitting and validation errors, which actually means that we successfully created our Vuex, and now we just need to bind it with our component. So let's do this now. For this, we need to jump in our create article view, and actually not in article form, because we are binding only parent, and our article form is stateless. So here, first of all, I want to fix a template. So here we have a div and then create article. This we don't need here, we simply need a form. So here MCV article form is everything that we need. Now here we need map state to get our properties from Vuex. So here is map state from Vuex. Here we have our component, this is fine, and here we have our default properties, this is also fine, but these two things here are not fine, because it should not be in data, it should be in computed properties with map state. So I will remove it from here and just create computed. And inside computed, we want to use spread map state as we already did previously, and we want to get is submitting property from our state. So here is state dot create article dot is submitting, and the second is validation errors, and this is state dot create article dot validation errors. So now we successfully binded our two properties from our Vuex to our state here, and we are passing validation errors and is submitting here on the top. Now on submit we need to dispatch an action for our API. So actually what we need to do here is this store dispatch, and here we will use our action types, which we need to import dot create article, and we successfully created it like 5 minutes ago. And here we are given inside article input. So actually would be nice to name here not the data, our parameter, but article input. And here will be also article input. And actually what is article input? It is just an object from or with the fields of our form. So console log we can remove. Now we have dispatch, and we can add here then, and we are getting here an article, because we want to redirect the user to article page. So here we can simply write this router push, and we already did that, so nothing new here. And name is article, because this is the name for route, and now we need to pass here params, and here will be parameter slug article slug. So this article that we are getting from the backend bag has slug inside, and we are using this slug to redirect the user. Now let's check if it's working. So it's not, we forget to import our action types. So here on the top we need to import action types from add store modules, and here our create article. As you can see now we don't have any errors. We click publish and we're getting here our errors. So let's check if it's correct. So here we have /API/articles. This is fine. Now this is our request. And here, as you can see, we are getting our 4 properties. But actually it's not completely fine, because if we will check the example in demo, we need to write this down inside additional property. So I think it should not be raw like this. So let's check this out. For this I will jump inside demo and I need to sign in here. Oh, come on. And now here I'm clicking create article and let's check the network. So here inside the network, we just click publish article. And as you can see, here is our request. And as you can see inside object, there should be the property article. And for us, it's not the article property, but we simply throw everything inside like this. So it's not correct. And you might ask, what is the most correct place to do this? And actually we can do it in different places like article form over the parent, or for example inside API. And from my point of view, inside API is the most correct place. Why is that? Because actually we have a form and we're just propagating the data of the form on the top, which means actually form doesn't know anything about the format that we need for our API. And it doesn't make any sense that we will wrap it there in additional article property. It just won't bring clarity. Then of course we can add here like an article, because we know, okay, we have create article and here we're making a request, like dispatching an action. But the problem is then that we need to do it twice, once in create article, once in edit article. Actually, from my perspective, everything that we need to prepare for backend, we need to do inside API. So for this we have our API folder and we have here our method create article. And we know that here we are getting article input from our frontend. So it would be nice here to actually prepare data in the correct way. So here we can simply say that we have an article and this is article input, because this is the only place which communicates with our API. So this is the only place which actually changes the data for our API. And then our frontend will be in the state how it is comfortable for us to develop frontend. So here I wrapped everything with article. So let's check now if it's working. So we click publish article and now here is our request. And as you can see now we have article property and all properties inside. And here are our error messages and here we render them on the top. So as you can see everything is working. We can also check our Vuex. So here are our requests and we have here create article start and failure, and obviously we are getting back payload, and now inside create article in validation errors we see our errors. So as you can see everything is working and our create article actually is already implemented. But of course we need to check if we can create the valid article. So here let's make it clear. So here I will name it like this and click publish article. And as you can see after this we jumped inside page /article/ and our new slug. And this is our page which was successfully created, which means this code that we wrote inside create article, then and wrote a push, successfully got the article, read from the article slug, and now redirected us to the correct page. And then we jumped to this page, we made our new fetch to get the data for this page, and here you can see the result of this page. But there is one error that maybe you can see here. As you can see here in the response, we're getting tag list like an empty array. But as you saw when I created an article, I provided here a tags. So the question what we are doing wrong? We can check it really easy. If I will just write everything here and click publish article, you can see my request. So here is post, and here is how our article is looking like. And actually the format of tag list is not correct. So here we are passing a string, and this is why inside response tag list is empty, because API wants from us to get tag list as an array of strings, which means we need to convert our string in an array of strings. How we can do that? Actually, we can just get this data back correctly from our article form. So let's open article form, and here on the bottom on submit we are preparing all properties. So actually we want at this place to say in what format we want to give data back. And here we have tag list, and we know that this is a string, but we can convert it in array back. And this is really easy to do. So we have string, and normally we will separate it with spaces. So here we have something like this, and then we want to create from this an array of strings. So we can simply split our string by space. So here we can write split, and here will be our space. So in this case, we will get back an array of strings. So let's check this out. I will reload the page and write something in our post. So here, as you can see, I am writing 3 tags. Now, after publishing article, you can see that now we're providing here not a string, but array of strings. And now here as a response, we're getting 3 tag list tags. So here are tags like we created them, and this is why we can see them inside our article page. So in this video, we successfully tuned our create article page. We also created Vuex for create article and binded our article form to our create article. In previous video, we successfully finished our create article page. Now we need to implement edit article page. So let's jump right into it. So what do we need to do? Here we have our create article, and here we have our form. So let's once again create an article, and after clicking publish, we are in our article page. Now, if we will click edit article, we will just jump to our global feed because we used this component for /article/slug/edit. But normally we want our edit form to look like our create form, and the only difference is that first we need to fetch an article by slugging the URL and then put this data inside our form. And then on publish article we won't do create, but we will do put with update. So this is the main difference, so let's start implementing it. First of all, we need to improve our API article, because here we have create article property, but we don't have update article. So let's create it now. It will be update article, and here we're giving not only article input, but also a slug, because slug is our unique identifier. And now the second parameter will be article input, and we want here to return our Axios put, and here will be our URL. So the URL will be /articles/slug. And now here will be our article input, and we also want to normalize data. So here is response.data.article. As you can see, it looks exactly like our create article. The only difference is that here is put, and actually we have the same problem like in create. So as you can see here, we wrote object with property article, and we need to do the same with update. So here should be our article, and here is our article input, like this. So in this case, we will put correct data for our API. And now we need to export here our update article, and we're good to go. The second point that I want to do is jump in our article form and fix a small problem here. So what's the problem? As you can see here, we have a property in props which is called initial values, but we don't use it inside our form because we simply put all data to empty string. And this is not correct, because actually we want in edit form to get all data from our initial values. How we can do that? Really easy. Instead of empty string here, we can write this initial values dot title, and here will be this initial values dot description, and here is this initial values dot body. But tag list will be tricky. Just to remind you, we have an array of strings which is coming from the backend, which means here we want to convert this data array of strings to the string. This is why here we need to say this initial values tag list, and we want to join it with a space. So like this. In this case now we can create our edit article page and put inside initial values all values that we need. The next thing that we need to do is to create our Vuex module. And we already have in store modules our create article module, and now we need to create edit article module. And actually, as I already said, I don't want to reuse the same module, so I would like to copy paste everything in create article and create edit article. Why is that? Because it will have minor changes, but a lot of stuff, like for example is submitting validation errors, will be still there. So it's easier to just copy and change things that we want to. So here will be edit article.js, and I will paste everything that we have. So now let's think what we need from state. First of all, for sure we need is submitting and validation errors, is submitting to disable a button, and validation errors to show some errors for the user. And now we also need is loading and article. Why is that? Because on initialize of our edit article, we want to fetch our article by slug, which means first of all we need a property where we will store this article, and secondly we want a spinner because we are loading the article. So here I want to add is loading, and it will be false, and I want here article, which will be null. And these are all properties that we need. Now here we have create article, it's not correct, so here we first of all want update article, and here the module is edit article, and here I will copy edit article, and here we are naming it update article start, update article success, and update article failure. But it's not enough for us, because these are update mutations, and we also need fetch mutations to fetch an article. So actually we can copy paste these three mutations and paste it on the bottom, and once again rename it, because here we want get article start, and then here on the right it should be also get article start. So here let's change this. Here is get, and get, and now all our mutations are ready. The same thing we need to do with action types. So here we have our update article action, and this is the module edit article. So here will be the name update article, and we can copy this line and rename here because we need action get article. So here is edit article module, and string is get article. Now we need to apply our mutations. So as you can see, a lot of mutations will be similar, like create, because here we will have update. So let's change it, update article start. We are just changing is submitting, this is fine. Update article success, we are changing it back to false. And here we have update article failure. And then we have validation errors and is submitting property. But now we need to create 3 more mutations. I will just copy paste these mutations to avoid typing. And we want here to rename update to get article start, and on start we want to set property is loading to true, and we need here to get article success, and on success we are getting not only state but also payload, and inside our payload we will have an article. So here we want to set is loading to false, and we want to save our article. So this is why state article equals payload. And here is our get article failure, and we don't know if we get any errors here, so I will delete payload from here and just put is loading to false. So we successfully created our mutations. As always, it's not difficult. We have 3 mutations for update and 3 mutations for get article. And here we're changing just is loading and article property on success. Now we need to update our action. So here we have update article and we also get article input, but actually it's not enough because we also need to get a slug. So here inside this object we are passing slug and article input. And this is exactly what I said previously. If we put this article input just instead of object, then we can't additionally put their new properties. And in this case with object we can do it really simple. Now here we want to commit mutation types, and here we'll have update article start. And now here we want to call article API update article. And just to remind you, we are putting inside here, inside the API article, the first parameter is slug and the second parameter is article input. So here we are passing slug, comma, article input. And as a response, we are getting updated article, and then here we want to make mutation, update article success, and here we are passing our article. If we are getting some failure, then here will be update article failure, and here are our errors. As always, they are inside response data errors. So this is our update article action. Now we need to create get article action. So I will copy the whole action and just change it. So here we have action types, get article, and we actually need only slug because we are getting the article by slug. Now here we have a promise, here is start, so mutation types, get article start, and now here we have article API, and actually I think we forget to add get article by slug. So here inside article, or actually we have it because we already used it in our single page of article. So we can reuse this get article function from here to get an article. So here will be get article, and here we just pass slug inside, and then as a response, let's check again, here we are getting our article back. So here will be article, and then here will be our mutation types dot get article success, and we are passing inside our article. If we are getting some error, actually we don't want to do anything, so just empty brackets here, come on. And here we don't want to pass any errors, so just mutation with get article failure. This is it. So we successfully created 2 actions, one for update article and one for get article. And this is it. Our Vuex part is completely ready. We simply need to add it inside our index.js. So here we want to copy create article and name it edit article, and here rename our module to edit article. And now we can use it here, and let's check that it works. So we need to reload the page and check our view state. So as you can see here, we have our base state, and here we have create article and edit article. And inside we have article null and is loading. And these 2 properties we need now to fetch our article. Now we just need to create our component. So first of all, I want to jump in source views, and actually I want to copy paste create article. Why is that? Because it will be super similar and I don't want to start from scratch. So here I will paste file and rename create article in edit article. So here is edit article view, here is actually the template, and the name here will be MCV edit article. And everything is looking fine. So here, for example, we already use our MCV article form. We have some initial values, computed property, and so on. We just need to tune it a little bit. So the first question is regarding our initial values and article form. As I already said, we want on initialize to get our article. So this is the first thing that we need to do. So here I want to create mounted, and this will happen on initialize, and inside I want to dispatch our action. So it will be this store dispatch, and here will be action types dot get article. And now here we want to provide inside slug, and we are getting slug from this route param slug. This is it. With this code, we will simply fetch an article. The only problem that action types are here from create article, but we need them from edit article. So let's check if it's working. First of all, we need to create some article and click publish and click edit here. And as you can see, the route is not correct. So we need to jump in router and fix the route. So here in /articles/slug/edit here, we use not correct component. So here we need to use our edit article component, and we need to import it on the top. So here will be our edit article, and here let's rename it to edit article. So let's save this, and as you can see now we are getting our form, and we are in /articles/slug/edit. So our form is there, and what we are interested in is our request. So as you can see here, we are getting article with /API/articles, and this is our slug. So we successfully got an article. And here inside Vuex you can see this is edit article module, and here we have got get article start and get article success. And after it, inside our base state, we have here somewhere edit article. We have here our article. This is now an object, and we can render it inside our form. So let's do this now. What we need to do here is we need to bind our data inside our edit article. So for now we used here map state with this submitting and validation errors. This is fine, but first of all here should be not create article but edit article. And here I missed dot, and the same here. So state, edit article, validation errors. This is fine, but it's not enough for us. First of all, we want here is loading property. So I will create is loading, and it is from edit article. And secondly, I want here our article. So here is article from state edit article dot article. So we know that inside article we either have a null or we have our data. And if we will check here on the top, we are passing initial values inside our article form. So actually at the beginning we can't pass them because we don't have an article and we can't normalize them. So I want actually, instead of data here, this we can comment out, I want to create computed property. So here I want to create property initial values, and we will here create them only if we have an article, because if we don't have an article we can't do anything. So here I want simply to write if we don't have an article then return null. So we don't have any initial values. And if we have an article, then here I want to return all properties from this article. So here will be title, this article.title. Now description, it will be this article description. And here is our body, this article body. And the last one is tag list, this article tag list. And this is it. We got our initial values, and if we don't have an article, then it will be null. If yes, then we are passing everything inside. So let's check if it's working. And as you can see, our form is already filled with the data. But what is important, we reload the page and we are getting errors. So here you can see that prop failed because we didn't pass initial values, because it expected an object and got null. And how we can fix it? Really easy. Here we need to add if condition, and we need to render this article form only if we have initial values. In this case, at the beginning we have null and we won't render it at all. So here on page reload, we don't have any errors, and now only after we filled our initial values, we are rendering this form. I also want to show a loader with this isLoading property. So what we can write here is mcv loading if loading, isLoading. And we just close it. So this is this component that we additionally created, and we can use it here. But for this we need first of all to import it here. So we need here mcv loading, from add components, and here is loading component, and we need to add it here like MCV loading. Let's check this out. We are getting an error that template root requires one element. So here we need to wrap everything with, for example, a div. And now when we reload the page, we don't have an error. But when we will reload the page, you can see here like for 1 second a loader. So at least user understands that something is going on. And then after we loaded the data, we render this form. So we successfully binded here initial values. We have here loading, but we are still missing our update. So now we need on submit to do something with data. First of all, here we can remove this data, we don't need them. And secondly, we can talk about this onSubmit method. Actually, I want to comment this out and just check that everything is working. So here is our console log article, and actually it's article input. So let's console log it here and check if it's working. So we have some predefined values, and now we just change it and we click publish article, and as you can see, this is exactly our form. So all data are valid, and we just need to dispatch our action to update our API. So what we need to do here is use store dispatch. This is fine, but here we will have not create article but update article. And the most important is that inside we need to pass slug. So here let's create additional property slug. Actually, we can also create it in computed property, but it's not this important. So here is this route params slug. So we are reading it from our router. And now we are passing inside article input and slug. This is exactly what we need to pass as a payload for our update article. And if we successfully updated article, we want to push a user back inside article page. So this is why this line is completely valid, and we simply want to redirect user on success update. So let's check this out. We are in update page. Here I clicked something, and here is publish. And as you can see, we are in article page, and here I updated my title. So let's check our Vuex if everything is correct. So here we have update article start, and payload is undefined. And then we have update article success, and we are getting back our payload. So this is our updated article, and as you can see, our title is already updated. As you can see, when you are doing a right architecture, like for example we did with our article form, we can simply reuse it between two pages. This is why we managed to create our edit article page really fast. So we first created our API call, then we created new module inside Vuex and just binded it and used this article form inside. So this is why our code is dry, easy to understand and read. In previous video, we finished creating and updating our article, so we closed one more big feature. In this video, I want to create a settings page. And actually it's just a form, but it will be much more interesting for us, because I want to show you how different modules in Vuex can communicate between each other and how we can reuse different mutations between them. So let's jump right into it. So first of all, let's check what we need to implement. Here am I in demo real-world.io, and here on the top I can jump to settings. So this is simple form, nothing special, and update button and logout button here. So what is it about? We have here already current user because we fetch current user on every page. So here we simply pass this data from current user inside the form, and we can update settings when we change something and click update settings. This is it. This is the whole form, and also logout button here, and when we click on it we simply remove our access token and then we'll log it out. So let's check why it is interesting by starting to implement it. So first of all, we need to think about how we will do it. And actually from my perspective, we have a store modules auth, and it is exactly the place where we need to implement updating of current user. Of course, we can implement updating of current user exactly in this page. Like we can create, for example, settings page inside Vuex like a module, and then we do update there. But from my perspective, we need to try to structure our Vuex not per page. Of course, we do it really often, but like per module logic, which means actually we have auth module and we are putting everything regarding current user there. Which means actually updating of the current user is not related directly to settings, but to our auth module. Which means we can simply create our mutations and actions here and reuse it in different places, for example, inside our settings. So let's do exactly this. The question is, what do we need to create? Do we need any additional state? No, we have everything. So basically when we just make update call, we update this current user property. So what we need to update here is, first of all, create 3 more mutations for our update. So here will be update current user, start, success and failure, and here will be update current user start string, then success and failure. We also need here to create new action type. So here will be update current user and here update current user string. Now we need to register 3 new mutations, and actually 2 of them will be empty. And just to remind you, we need to register all our mutations, because if you won't write it here, it just won't exist. So here we want to say mutation type update current user start. And here we don't want to do anything, because we don't have to change our state at all. We simply do this so first of all we can reuse it in different places, and secondly we see in our Vuex what's going on. So here nothing is there, then we need mutation type update current user success. And here, yes, we have state and payload, and we need to update our current user. So for this I will simply change state current user and apply here our payload. So the last thing that we need to do is failure. So here is update current user failure, and here I don't want to do anything because we don't have to mutate our state. So here we successfully created our 3 mutations, and now it's time to add new action. As you can see, all our actions are the same, and we can simply copy one of them, for example, get current user, and change it in our update action. And as you can see, it always will be like this. So here, first of all, we have action types, update current user, we have here context, and we need here current user input. Just to remind you, we are passing this data from somewhere. Actually, we will pass it from settings from the form, but the idea is that our auth module in Vuex is actually not depending on some view part, like for example settings page. So we simply say, okay, we define an action, and to trigger this action you need to pass current user input. And as always, we can provide here current user input just like this, or provide it like a property. So here will be current user input as an object, just so we can put additional variables later here. So here, first of all, we need start, so it will be update current user start, and we don't want to do anything here. And here is auth API, and actually we need to update later our auth API because we don't have update current user method. So here we need to pass inside current user input, and as a response we are getting back our current user or just user, and here we want to do new mutation, update current user success, and we want to pass inside our user. And we also want to resolve here our user, and on catch we want here to commit mutation type update current user failure, and we have here backend validation errors. This is why here we first of all need to say that we get a result, and now here we are getting errors as always. So result, response, data errors. So as you can see, we successfully created our update current user action. It looks exactly like all previous implementations of actions. So here we simply have start, success and failure. Now we need to add API method update to our auth. So let's jump back in source API auth. So here we have already 3 methods. We want one more, update current user, and we know that we are getting here current user input. And what we want to do here is return Axios put, because it's update, and here will be /user URL, and here will be current user input. And we also want to write then, because we want to normalize our response. So here we want to get response data user, and then we simply get back our current user. So here inside our export default, we need to add update current user. So our API is ready, our module in auth is ready. So now it's time to start implementing Vuex for settings page. And you might ask, okay, we wrote everything here in auth. What does it mean to implement Vuex for settings? Actually, we need only 2 properties inside a settings page. It's, as always, is submitting property and validation errors, because we need somehow to save what backend errors we are getting or when we need to disable button. So let's create here inside modules, new module and name it settings. And it will be really small, and this module is really interesting from my point of view. So what we want to do here is to define new state. And as we did previously, we have here is submitting, it is false, and validation errors is null. But now we won't create any mutation types or action types. So what we want to do here is reuse mutation types from auth. So what does it mean? Here I want to import mutation types from, and here we will have store modules auth. And actually I want to rename them, so not mutation types, because then we will have name collision. If we will create them here, we want to say here auth mutation types, so it will be clearer. And now here I want to create my mutations. So we're creating here mutations for settings module. This is super important to understand. But what we want to do, we want to write here mutation types from our auth. Basically, these are just strings. So we are saying here update current user start. So update current user start is our mutation that we created inside auth. So we want here to subscribe to update current user start, and here is our state now, and we want to change it. So we want to say is submitting is true, and state validation errors is null. So as you can see, we can use different strings here, because as I already said, all mutations and all actions are global, which means we can, between modules, write different mutations. And this is super useful, for example, in this case, which means we can, for example, in one place in auth, define some mutations, like for example, update current user, and then in different modules, we can subscribe to that mutations and change the local state of that module. And this is exactly what we are doing here. This is simply a string from our auth module. So this is unique global string, which is the name of our mutation. So here, when this mutation happens, we simply override some properties inside our local state. Now we want to do the same with auth mutation types, update current user success. And here on success, we simply get a state. We don't need current user, but we want to say that is submitting equals false, because we don't want to disable a button anymore. And now we want also to handle failure. So here on update current user failure, we also want to change this property and also to set validation errors. So here we are getting payload, and what is interesting here, we are getting payload from the mutation that happened inside our other module. So here will be state is submitting, it will be false, and here will be state validation errors, payload. So as you can see, we are saving inside our settings module some things from mutation from another module. So this is how we can create mutations for our Vuex settings module, but based on the other mutations from other module. And now here I will just export, as always, state and mutations. Now let's import our settings here inside index. So here we have import settings from @store module settings. And now we simply add it inside our modules. So here is settings, and we don't have any errors here, so let's reload the page and see what we have. So here when I jump inside Vue, inside Vuex, now our base state will be different. We have here somewhere settings. So as you can see, we have only two properties. But when we will trigger mutations inside our auth, we will change this part of our state. This is exactly our idea. Now we need only to create our settings component. So let's jump in source views and create here settings page. So it will be simply settings view, and here will be our template. And here I will close the template and the script. So here we want to export default our object with name MCV settings. And now here we will have in template our form, but actually this form is based on two properties from our state and current user. Which means first of all we need to get both our state and current user. For this we can use first of all map state and secondly map getters, because as you remember we created several getters for our current user. So here is map state and map getters from Vuex. And now here we need to create computed property, and inside we can merge together. First of all we need map state. And here we will have two properties, is submitting, and we are reading it from state.settings.isSubmitting. And now we need also validation errors, and this is from state settings validation errors. Now we want to merge them with map getters. So here inside map getters, we want to create current user property. And for this we can use auth getter types. So we don't have it yet, so we will implement it in a second. Import. So here will be auth getter types.current user. And just to remind you, we already used it somewhere. So here I can just Google map getters. Here, for example, in articles, we already used our current user like this. So we are using it exactly in the same way. The only thing here, what we are missing is our import. So it will be auth, actually just getters or getter types as, and here will be auth getter types from @store modules, and here we are inside auth. So this is exactly how we are getting current user and two our properties from the state. But this is not enough. What's the problem? So our current user at the beginning is null because we didn't fetch it yet. And then after some time we fetched it and put inside, and this is an object. But actually what we want to do here is to create some object which is just like form, and we have different properties there. So we want somehow to create vModel for every input like we did previously. And we can easily achieve it if we will simply in computed properties create form. So it will be just an object, and here we can check. If we have this current user, then we will do something. If no, then we will simply return empty data. So here we will return something if it is empty, and here are properties that we need. First of all, we have username, then we have biography, then image, email, and password. So if you ask from where I get these properties, this is exactly what we have here. So this is image, username, biography, email, and password. These are all our fields. So here is password, and it will be also empty. So if we have current user, we return our object and it will be fulfilled. So here we have username, and this is this current user username. So here we have biography, and this is this current user biography. Now we have image, this is this current user image, and now email, this current user email, and the last one is password, and password obviously will be for secure reasons by default empty string, and for sure we don't get it in current user response from the backend. So here is just empty string. So as you can see, we created our computed property form, and inside we are checking if we have current user, then we return our data. If not, our form is simply empty. But here we have all properties, which means we won't have any problems with VModel. So now I want to create our template so we can check how it looks like. So here we have div, class, settings, page. And we want to render our page at all only when we have current user, because it doesn't make any sense to try and render it, because this is the core point that we have current user. So we can simply write here if current user, and now inside our first div we will have div class container page, and now let's close this div, and inside we will have div class row. And now inside row we have div class call md6, offset md3, and call xs12. This is exactly the same like you already saw hundreds of times, so I won't say anything about our markup. This is a simple form which is made with Bootstrap and nothing special. So here we have h1 tag, and here we have class text xs center. And inside each one we simply write settings. Now after each one we want to render our validation errors. So of course we have this component already, we can simply use it here. So mcv validation errors, and we want here if, so if we have validation errors property, here it is, we have it from the state, and now we need to pass it inside. So here will be validation errors equals validation errors. And now we can close our component. But for it to work, we need to import it, of course, here. So here is mcv validation errors, and it is from our add/components/validation errors. And now we need to register this component in our components object. So here is mcv validation errors, and now our component will work. After our validation of errors, we need to create our form. So here we will have submit, prevent, and we will have method on submit as we did previously. And here is our form, and inside we have field set. And inside first field set we will have one more field set, and here we will have class form group. Let's close our field set, and inside this field set we will have our input. So here will be input type text. We have here class form control and form control LG. And we also need here VModel, and we already created VModel. So here we have form dot, and the first one was image. And now we need here placeholder. So our placeholder will be URL of profile image. And let's close our input. Thanks for prettier, it's really easy to intend. Now we can copy field set and create one more field set, and here we will have form, and it is username. So here let's write form username, and our placeholder then will be username. Then the next one is our text area for biography. I will copy it once again. Here is not input but text area, and we don't have type text, and here we can close text area. And here we have VModel for form biography, and placeholder is short biography about you. Now let's copy one more field set with the input, because after biography we have email and then password. So I will paste it twice. One, it will be form.email, and placeholder will be email, and the last one will be type password, and here is form.password, and placeholder is new password. And actually it's not new password, this is our current password, but it is like this in the example here, so this is why I wrote it. Actually, to make some changes, you always need to give a correct password here. In other case, it won't work. So here is our last field set, and after this we close our, actually we need a button. So here after field set we have our button, and here will be type submit and class button, button LG, button primary, and pool access, right? Now let's close our button, and here inside we will have update settings. Now we also want to disable this button, and we have an isSubmitting property for this. This is why we can say here disabled isSubmitting. And now this button will be disabled when we are submitting our request. So here we have field set, form, and after form we have HR. You can see it here, because here is the line, and here click to log out. So after HR we have one more button with class button, button outline danger, and here is click logout. So we don't have yet our logout method, so we will implement it later. We also need type text, and we need to close our button. And inside we simply write or click here to log out. And at last our template is ready. For now we need to create logout method and on submit method. So here after computed properties somewhere, here we need to create methods, and we need two methods. First of all on submit, and here we can simply write on submit. And for example, we want to know our this form. This is our computed property. And then we have on logout, or it is just logout. I think it's just logout. Yes. So here is logout, and we simply write here console log for now. So here will be logout. Now we need to check if our component works at all. But we need to update in our router first this component. So we don't have it here. So here I am importing in our router settings from add views settings.view. And now here somewhere we have settings. Here is settings, and component will be settings. As you can see, still no errors, so let's try it. We are on the home page. I'm clicking on settings, and bam, everything is working. So as you can see here, we see our form. All fields inside are working correctly. So we have all properties, and this means that we successfully reused our current user data and we rendered everything. Now the only question is how to trigger two actions, on submit and logout. And actually logout action we didn't implement yet, but actually on submit here, as you can see, we get all this information from the form. So we can simply write here our action, but first of all the question is what we need to send. And this is really tricky part. So here, as you can see, we have only like 5 properties. But if I will click update settings, this is the demo project, here is our request. So here is put, and the point is that we have user property, and inside we are passing these 4 fields. So this is what we need also to pass. So what we want to do here is we want to dispatch our current user input, but we need to wrap it inside with this user property. So for this we need to jump in our API auth, and here as you can see we have current user input. We want to wrap it here as we see in user. So here is user, current user input. Now it is looking fine. So let's jump back in settings. So here we want this, and then it is $store dispatch, and here we will have action types. Actually, do we have already action types? We have here auth getter types, so we can name it already auth action types, so it will be clear. So here is auth action types dot update current user, and here we are providing this form. And actually I think this is not correct, because we wrote inside our auth store here in module, you can see it, we have action, and here we are giving current user input. So this is for sure not a valid object, because here we need to pass an object with current user input equals this form. And in this case, it will be valid. Now we can remove this console log and on the top import also our action types. So here we will have comma and then action types as auth action types. So what we are doing here is simply dispatching an action and we are passing inside our form. So we don't need some success. Actually, as you can see here, after we successfully make a put from settings on update, in this demo project we are jumping directly to the home page. But from my perspective, this is not a good UI, because when we update a form of something like settings, you want to stay there and just see some message that form was successfully updated or something like that, because maybe the form is not valid or not finished yet. So I really don't want to make a router push, but of course if you want, just write here then and then router push. So let's check if our dispatch is working. So here is our form and we are clicking update settings and here is our request. So as you can see, we are getting error password be blank, so we can't really put all this data with blank password. This is completely fine for us and we see here validation errors. So here I need to put correct password. This is my password and here I'm clicking update settings and I'm getting 200, which means I successfully updated my settings. So here I can change, for example, biography. I can write biography something, and now here I need to put valid password and I click update settings, and as you can see now we get 200 and here is our view state. So after this request, after this mutation in our state inside auth, we can see inside current user that biography was changed, which means it's not only changed here but everywhere. For example, if I will change my username here, let's make it smaller. So for example, here is 222. I click update settings. Okay, password can't be blank. This is clear. So as you can see directly here in top bar, because we are subscribed for the same current user inside Vuex, our current user was changed. And this is exactly what we wanted to achieve. And the really important part that you need to understand, that here we have update current user, start, failure and success. This is all coming from our auth module. But as you can see, our page is reacting for these mutations. So for example, after update current user start here, so here if I will click on it, you can see that inside our settings here, we have is submitting to true, which means we are listening for this mutation and we are changing something in different part of our modules. And this is super convenient because these all mutations are global and we can change everything whenever we want. Now, the only thing that we are missing is logout, and this is super simple to implement. So what we want to do is jump back in our store modules auth here, and we have action types. So actually we can create one more action type, but I won't copy it because it is super small. So here we will have action types logout, and we need to create it on the top in action types in a second. But here we have context and we don't have any parameters. What we want to do here is just set item. And just to remind you, this is our helper where we can change our access token. And I want to set it to empty string. This is it. And after this, I want to make context commit. And here will be our mutation types logout. So why I'm doing this? Because yes, removing access token is enough for the backend, but on frontend we want also to react that we log it out, and we need this mutation in order to remove later current user. After this we can write resolve, but actually it doesn't matter. So here is our resolve, and actually I forget to wrap it inside our new promise. So here is our resolve new promise, here is resolve. And inside we want to do all this stuff. So as you can see, nothing special here. We simply override access token to empty string and we commit our mutation. And let's check on the top. We have here set item. This is fine. But here we want to create new mutation, and this is logout. And as you can see, we don't need 3 of them because this is synchronous mutation. So it's not working with API. So here is auth logout, and now we create action types. Logout, and it will be auth logout. So as you can see, I am naming them the same, which is actually not forbidden because these are 2 different stuff. One is mutation type and one is action type. But the most important part why we don't just create mutation, because I want to do working with local storage inside action. And as I already said, mutation is for synchronous stuff. You should not do set item, for example, and working with local storage inside mutation. Yes, it will work, but it's not correct because you want to do all side effects inside your actions. So this is all code that we need. Now we simply need to change, to add here inside mutations, our new mutation. So here is mutation type logout. So here we want to write state current user equals, and here is null because we know that we are not logged in anymore, and state is logged in equals false. And as you can see, I am writing here not null, but false, just because we know that after logout we are not logged in anymore. And it doesn't make any sense to put here null. And now inside our component, we simply need to dispatch this action. So here we can remove logout and say this to dispatch. And I want to dispatch action auth action types dot logout. This is action that we created, and this is actually it. But I want also to redirect a user to the home page, because if I'm log out, then I can't see settings page. So here I'm just writing this router push, and here I have an object with name global feed. So this redirect we already did, so nothing special here. So now let's check, and actually we have only one try. In other case, we need to log in again. So here what I want to do is reload the page and simply click on logout. And as you can see, I am on home page. Here inside application in access token, I have empty string, so I am not logged in anymore. Here on the top, you can see that current user is null. This is why we don't see any information. And here we can see our mutation. So here we have somewhere auth logout, just one simple mutation. And after it inside auth, we removed completely current user. So as you can see, this video was super productive. We first of all know now how we can reuse mutation between different modules. We already created our settings page, created our form, and managed to create also logout. In previous video, we successfully finished creating our settings page. And I propose to relax a little bit from implementing our project and check what is namespaced in Vuex. So let's jump right into it. Actually, if you know a little bit Vuex previously, before my course, you for sure thought that we need to use namespaced from Vuex in all our application, and you was very curious why I didn't use it. So in this video, I want to cover what is namespaced modules inside Vuex, how we can use them, and why I am not recommending to use them. So here is the official website of Vuex, and as you can see here, we have modules on the left. So we already used modules quite a lot, and as you can see here, this is how we use them. We simply had state, mutations, actions, getters, and it doesn't matter in what module we create them, they are still global. So everything is global and we can use everything everywhere. This is super convenient, and this is exactly the Redux approach. So if you already knew Redux previously, for example, you used it with React, you can simply jump in Vuex and apply all your patterns that you created inside Redux directly inside Vuex. But now we are talking about namespaces, and here on the bottom there is namespacing, and this part does not exist inside Redux. This is exactly some extension inside Vuex. So what is the idea? As you can see here, by default our actions, mutations and getters inside modules are in global namespace. This is fine. But now we can say namespace true inside some of our modules. And then when the module is registered, all its getters, actions and mutations will be automatically namespaced based on the path. What does it mean? Let's say here we have our Vuex, and let's say that here we have modules, and one of the modules is namespace true. So this is just a property when we register our module. So as you can see here, for example, our getters won't be global, but they will be scoped by the name of the module. And here we can check how it looks like. So as you can see everywhere now, when the module is namespaced, we need simply to write the name of the module, slash, and then our string, like mutation or getter or action. And this sounds really convenient because this is exactly what we wanted. We want to namespace our things so they are really scoped to our module, and we can then create the same mutations in different modules. So now the question why I don't like this approach and what problems does it have. So for this we need to write a little bit of code so we will understand it better. But I want to say that this code in this video is not a part of the series, which means you can remove it or just not type, because we will use it only for testing purposes to understand how namespaced is working. So here inside store modules, I want to create new module foo.js. This will be just a testing module. So here I want to create a state, and let's say that we have here is loading property. So by default it is false, and something similar we already have. Now here we want to create our mutations, and this is simply an object, and here we can create some mutations. For example, article fetch start, success and failure. So we can write here get article start, and this will be a function, and inside we're getting our state, and here we can change our state. Let's say state is loading equals true, and now I will copy it and create here success and failure. So it looks exactly like we did previously, so this is really a real example. So here we have get article success, and here is loading will be false. Actually, of course, if we are talking about real application, here we need payload and we're getting article, but this is just for testing, so just for you to understand. And here we have failure, and in failure we want to change is loading to false. Now we want to export here our mutations and state. So here is our mutations, our state, and actually I want to create one action. So here let's say we have actions, and I want get article action. And here we're getting as a parameter our context, and now inside we can do something. For example, we can say context.commit, and here we will have get article start. Obviously we want to do some asynchronous stuff here, but it's not the point of this video. So here I want to export our actions. Now our foo module is ready, and we need to bind it inside our index in store. So here will be import foo from add store modules foo. And now here we need to add our module. So here we have foo. So as you can see, everything now is global. And if we will dispatch anything, it will be global. So to check this out, really, I want to create one more view. It will be really simple. So here we can create in source views foo.view. Oops. It should be view. And now inside let's add some basic template and some basic commits. So here we have div, and inside, for example, foo page. And now we want to register our script. And here we have export default, and here will be our name, for example, mcv foo. And now I want mounted. So in mounted, I want just a console log that here we have initialized foo component. And now we need to register this foo component inside our routes. So router index, here we need to import our foo from add views foo.view. And now here somewhere on the bottom, I will add one more object, and here we have path/foo, then our name will be foo, and our component will be foo. So we successfully created our component, and now we can do our testing. So first of all, I want to jump in /foo, and we can see our page. What is more important, here I have console log initialized foo component, which means everything is working fine. And now inside Vuex we can check. Here I have in base state foo part. So here is our object, and is loading is false. So now if we want inside our component to commit mutation, for example, we are writing this store, then commit, and the name and actually article start is our global mutation. So we successfully created it here. So let's check. These are all global stuff. This is why here this store commit is global. So we reload the page. We're getting unknown mutation type article start. This is actually strange. Let's check. We have our module. Okay, this is get article start, not just article start. So get article start, I'm reloading the page, we don't have any error, and inside Vuex we can see our get article start, which is actually just a global mutation. Now, what will happen if we will write inside our store module here namespaced true? So this line, this one line changes everything, because now our module is namespaced. And now when we reload the page, we are getting the error unknown mutation type get article start, because actually we don't have any more mutation get article start, which is global. So this means that all these mutations are now with prefix. So to use them, we need to write here foo/get article start. And it looks really convenient. So here we can check inside Vue, and here is our foo/get article start. And you see here that everything is namespaced, and it looks like exactly the problem that we solved with our auth prefix here, for example. So now this means that everywhere we can commit mutation like this, or we can dispatch an action. So let's check. We are dispatching here, and here we are writing foo/get article. So now I will reload the page. As you can see, no errors here, and inside Vuex we can see our foo get article start, because inside our module here, inside actions, first of all we don't get an error. This means that this get article is namespaced with foo, and secondly this commit is local. What does it mean? As you can see here we have foo/get article start, but here we wrote commit without foo. So all commits that you are writing inside actions now are isolated and namespaced, which means this commit is actually with prefix foo, but this is sugar. So Vuex doesn't show this, we're just writing like this, and Vuex adds this automatically. And this is exactly what we see in this documentation. So you can see here we have some module, for example, foo, and here we have action, and to dispatch something or to commit, we are using just a name. So this is kind of looks like global name, but in this case it's not global. So as you can see, it will be always prefixed with foo module. The question is then how we can commit our actions which are not namespaced with foo. For example, we want to commit something which is global. Let's say our auth mutation, then we need to write it like this. As you can see here, we can write the name, then comma null, and then the object with root true. And in this case, we will commit or dispatch our global action or commit our global mutation. So it will look somehow like, for example, here we have like get current user, and actually start, I think, because it is a mutation. Now here we are saying null, here is the object, and here we have root true. First of all, looks a little bit verbose to me, doesn't matter, but the point is, and this is the second point why I don't like this approach, that it makes your code less understandable and more complex, because now you need to understand, okay, is this a local mutation or is it a global mutation? What mutations are global, what mutations are local? The problem is either you use namespace true everywhere or nowhere. Because if you are mixing it, like you have sometimes global modules, sometimes not, then it is super easy to stop understanding what is global and what's not. And you need really every time to check, okay, is my module now namespaced? Is this commit that I'm doing a root commit, like root true, or it is just the scoped commit, and so on. So from my point of view, first of all, it changes how Redux was planned, because in Redux you don't have namespaced things at all, everything is global, and we are building stuff like everything is global. And here we have namespaces, and we are trying to tune somehow things and isolate them, but it really doesn't work that good. So here you understood, if we write namespaced, we need to commit things locally, just like a string, and then it will be namespaced with foo, for example. If we need it with root, then we are writing root true. But there is also one other problem. As I already said, I will revert it, so let's leave it like this. And as I already said, for example, we are outside. So outside we can either commit something global, like for example just get article, if we registered it somewhere where it is global, or we can commit it with the namespace. Which means from outside we really can manipulate only with this string. We can't say anything like is it root, is it not root. But there is a possibility inside namespaced module to register root action or root mutation. And here you can say, for example, inside actions, root true. And then our actions will be in global namespace. And for me, it brings even less clarity, because in this case, you have some actions inside namespace module, which is global or not global, and this is super complicated. And I never saw in big Vuex projects the good usage for namespaces, because from my point of view, it should work a little bit different. And there is the third problem that is super crucial for me. And just to remind you, when we used our settings page, so here I am in source store modules settings, we used here subscriptions for other mutations, because this is just a string, which means all strings are global and all mutations are global. And here we simply wrote our string update current user start from another module. But with namespaced approach, we can't use it anymore, just because all our mutations are isolated, and we can simply catch only mutations which are happening with this module. So we can check if it is really like I am saying. Simply, we have here our foo.js. I can just copy everything. Actually, we don't need everything, but I will remove part of it, and I will create here bar.js. And now here I will keep my state, and here I want actually to remove all our mutations from here, and I don't need any actions, and I want to namespace thing, and here is our mutation and state. So as you can see, we don't have anything, and here is just a get article start, and here inside store I need to import now bar. So here we have our bar module, and on the right it is bar module, and here we have our namespaced bar module. Now let's say that we want to listen to mutation of this isolated module foo inside bar. So I would assume, for example, that this is global, but actually it won't work. So here we have just a string get article start, and let's write here something like console log get article start. And now I want to trigger this mutation. And as you can see here, I'm inside component foo view, and here on initialize we're dispatching foo get article start. Actually I want commit because we're testing here mutations. So here is foo get article start, and let's save this and reload the page. As you can see here, no errors, which means everything is registered correctly, all mutations. And inside Vuex, we see our mutation foo get article start. And this is a mutation from isolated foo module. And now the question how we can do something when this mutation happens. So we want inside bar.js somehow react for the mutation inside foo. So actually I thought that I can write something like foo / and here is get article start, because actually this is how we're using it here inside foo view, which means this is how our application at all sees these mutations. So I thought that this approach will work, but no, it won't. And you can see here in console, we are not getting here inside mutations because all mutations are scoped, which means we see and get only in these mutations when we are committing these mutations outside. So we're committing get article start and we're getting here. So here I can console log, this is mutation in foo module. So now when I will reload the page, you can see that we are getting console log, this is mutation in foo module, but we don't get console log from bar. So this is my verdict. I am not using namespace modules at all inside Vuex because for me it sounds not the right way to do Redux stuff. It is too complicated, it doesn't bring any clarity, and it doesn't make things simpler. So you can try it, it's maybe not suitable only for me, but you hear 3 points why I don't like it. So from my point of view, just forget about namespace modules, just use everything like global and root. You have Redux approach, you can simply move all your stuff that you wrote in Vuex in, for example, React plus Redux or Angular plus NGRX, because all these ideas are the same. But namespace modules inside Vuex are not, they exist only inside Vuex. In previous video, we successfully learned what is namespaced inside Vuex. In this video, we need to continue developing our application, and it's time to make Add to Favorites feature. So let's jump right into it. As you can see here, we have our feed, this is demo project, and here on the right we have this button, like button. And as you can see, sometimes it is green, sometimes it is white, which means green is when current user, so your profile, liked this article. And after we like the article, the counter here increases, because this is a counter how many people like this article. Now, this feature we will implement. The only question is how API is working and from where we are getting the data. So let's check here. We have our feed request, and as you can see, there are articles as a response. And inside each article, we have favorited and favorites count. These are two properties which are important for us. Favorited means that our current user already liked this article. Favorites count means how many people already liked this article. Now let's try to click here dislike. So as you can see, the request looks like this. So this is header and here is the request. API articles /slug /favorite. And this is delete because I disliked the article. As you can see, we don't pass anything here, and as a response we are getting article. And here favorited and favorites count are updated, but actually we won't use them because I want to show you the thing which is called optimistic updates. Now when we click again, so we like the article, we are making the same request, but it is post. And we don't provide anything here because the slug in the URL is enough. And here is also our article with updated data. So this is the feature that we will implement. Now the question is how we will implement it. So from my perspective, it is a shareable component because we want to share it between feed and article at least. As you can see, we have inside feed this button, and when we jump inside article, here we also have this button. Of course, it looks a little bit different, but this is topic for another video. So this component will go inside shareable components. And from my perspective, it doesn't make any sense to build a lot of logic with working with API in parent, which means this component is not stateless. It is smart enough to make needed API requests and understand if we liked or disliked this article. We just want from parent to say what article we want to like and what is the default status. So let's start to implement it. The first thing that I want to show you is how our API will look like. So for this we need to go to source components feed, and here somewhere we have our placeholder. So here you can see pull access right add to favorites. This is exactly the place where we will render our element. So what we want to use here is MCV, and let's name this component add to favorites. And now let's close it. So here is MCV add to favorites. And now what properties do we need inside? So from outside we want to give this property is favorited. As you can see here, we are getting from the response in network, here in every article, property favorited. And this is what we want to give inside. But for me, prop favorited doesn't sound right because I like to see that this is Boolean. This is why I am naming it is favorited. And now we are given here article.favorited. And as you can see, article we already have here because we are inside loop of articles. The next thing that we need here is article slug, because we need a slug to make an API request. And as I said, we will make this API request in the component itself. So this is why I want to name it article slug. So here is article.slug. And you might ask why I didn't name it just slug, because this is too generic. Just imagine that later we will have some other slug, for example, in this component and so on. So from my perspective, you need always to name things as little generic as possible. So of course, slug is understandable in this case, but article slug brings us more clarification. Now, after article slug, we need also favorites count. So this is the amount of favorites that we get from the backend. So here is favorites count, and this is article.favorites count. And this is it. As you can see in parent, we have all properties that we need, and these are 3 properties which should be sufficient for us to work with this component. Next one, we need to import here the component. Of course, it doesn't exist yet. We will create it in a second. So here is MCV add to favorites. And it is add components / add to favorites. And now we need to add it here in components. So MCV add to favorites. So from the parent we are completely ready. We just need to create our component. But our component relies heavily on Vuex and API. So first of all, I will create new API inside source API. And here we need to create methods to work with API. So I want here to create add to favorites file. And here I will create 2 methods, add to favorites and remove from favorites. So here is our Axios from add API Axios, and here is our method. So first of all, we want add to favorites, and we are getting slug as a parameter because this is the only thing that we need. And here we need to return Axios post, and here will be our URL. And our URL will be /articles/ and here will be our slug /favorite. And here it is post request and we don't provide anything. So it is an empty object. And now we want to get back our article. So here will be response, and we are getting from response.data.article. This is it. So this is how our add to favorites method is looking like. And actually I can copy paste it because our remove from favorites will look really similar. So here is remove from favorites. We also need a slug. The URL is the same. The only difference is that here we have delete, and we don't need second parameter because we can't pass data in delete. And here is our then response data article. And here we can export default. And here are 2 our methods, add to favorites and remove from favorites. And actually we can leave it like this, but as you can see we have duplications. Here we have the URL, which is the same in two places, and we can create new methods for it and just isolate it there. Of course, this is super small amount of code and it's not really mandatory, but I want to do this. So here we can, for example, create getURL method, and here we are passing inside our slug, and here how we generate the URL. So it will be just /articles, here is slug /favorite. So exactly this URL. Now here at the beginning we can say, okay, we need a property URL, and here we will call our getURL and pass slug inside. Now we can fully remove all this code here and just paste here our URL. So as you can see, in this case, we don't duplicate this string. Now here I want to put URL getURL also here, and then inside delete, it will be just URL. So as you can see, this code looks a little bit more dry because we created additional function and not just copy-pasted the string. So our API is ready, and now we need to create our Vuex module. And actually it will be a little bit interesting. So here I want to create add to favorites.js, and the first question is, do we need any state? So actually state is not mandatory in Vuex, which means you create state if you need to, if not, you just not create it. So as you saw in the example, we have here like and dislike, but actually we don't have any state. We understand that here we have some information, but this information comes from our article, and inside our component we have this information and we know how this information changes. So actually I don't want to create here a state. So I want here to create only an action and our mutations. So I will create here action types as always, and here we have only one action type, add to favorites. Actually, we could make two actions here, like add to favorites, remove from favorites, but it doesn't make a lot of sense, because inside action itself, we can distinguish between them with this isFavorited property. So here I want only add to favorites, and our module is add to favorites, and here is our add to favorites action. Now here I want to export const mutation types, and this is our object, and inside we will have three mutations as always. So here we have start, and actually I want to copy paste this because it's too much to write. So here we have three strings, and we have add to favorites start, and here we have add to favorites start, then we have success and failure. So here is our success string, and here will be our failure string. So add to favorites failure. And this is our three mutations. And here I am missing comma, and this should go. Now we need to create our mutations. So here we will create our mutations, and as you saw, we don't have state, which means we actually can't do anything with our mutations. But if we don't write this here, our all mutations, then they won't exist, which means we need to register them, but they won't do anything. So here I want to write add to favorite start, and we don't do anything here, so this is just an empty function, and then we need success and failure. And as you can see, it looks a little bit strange because we need to simply create empty functions, but if we won't create them, they won't exist. And in this case, we are registering mutations, but they just don't change the state. But we need them, first of all, to see in Vuex what is happening, and then we can easier debug this. So here are our empty mutations, and now we need to create an action. So here is our actions, and we want here action types add to favorites, and here we have as a parameter context, and we have two properties. So first of all, we need here slug and isFavorited. And as you remember, isSlug is what we need for our API, and isFavorited we can pass from the component in order to distinguish if the article is already liked or not. So here inside, first of all, I want to return new promise. And here we have resolve. And now inside I want to do some magic. So normally we put here on the top our import. So for example, add to favorites API from add / API / add to favorites. And then we just use it here. But the point is that in this exact place, I want to distinguish what method do we need. So for this, I can create new property promise and here assign our method. So we're checking, is article already favorited? If yes, then we want to remove from favorites, which means here add to favorites API dot remove from favorites, and we are passing here slug. And if it is not favorited, then add to favorites API, add to favorites, and here will be our slug. So as you can see, we are assigning promise here in this variable. So we can distinguish here between these two methods, and we simply call this method and assign it to promise. And after this we can do then, like we normally are doing, because we know that the response will be the same in both cases. So here we want to do promise then, and here will be our article. And here, if everything is fine, then we want to write context commit. And here will be our mutation type, add to favorite success. And here we can pass our article. We also need here catch. So here will be .catch. And here we don't know what error we will get, so I put here nothing and just context commit. And here we will have mutation types dot add to favorites failure. And we don't provide anything here. So as you can see, I even didn't use resolve here, so we need to write it, resolve our article. And this is how normally our action is looking like. The only difference is here that we can create promise based on some logic and use different API methods to do this. So here are our actions. Now we need to export default our actions and mutations. So here are actions, not action types, and mutations. And as you can see, I didn't export state because we don't have it. Now we need to register this module inside index. So here I will copy settings and name this add to favorites, and here we have modules add to favorites. And now this is the last module that we have. Let's save this, and now we can create our component. So actually the component is really easy part because we already prepared so much. So let's jump here in source components and create add to favorites .view. And here we want to have some template, and here we want to register our script. So here inside script we need to export default our component. So here we have name, and this is mcv add to favorites. And now we need to define props. And just to remind you, I will open here our feed so you can see what we wrote here. So this is our component mcv add to favorites. So here we now know what we need to write inside our props. So first of all, this is favorited, and this is boolean, which means type here is boolean and required is true, because we can't live without this field. The next one is article slug. So here is article slug, and we know that this is type string. And required is also true. And the last one here is favorites count. So here is favorites count, and this is type number. So type number, and required is also true. As you can see, all our props are required. Now, what we need to do, first of all, is to write our template. Then it will be clear what we want to achieve. And actually our template is just one button. So here I will create a button, and inside we have our text. And actually inside text it will be icon with class ion heart. And here we close our eye, and then we have span, and inside it we have a space because we want a space between text and our icon, and here we have our favorites count. And here I will close the span. So now let's check if it works at all. So we don't have any errors. Let's now reload the page here. So we're reloading the page. And as you can see, we don't have any errors. And here on the right, you can see our component. So we have here counter, and it doesn't look, of course, that nice because we didn't add any classes, but actually it is there and we don't have any errors. So first of all, what I want to do is add here click event, because we need for sure to handle it somehow. I want here to write handle like, and it doesn't matter that it will be dislike also. Inside this method we can write our logic. So here we have methods, and inside I will create handle like method, and for now simply console log handle like. So here is our method, and now we can click on this component. As you can see, handle like is there. The next thing is classes. So first of all, we have some classes by default, like everytime, and some classes are not. So here in demo, you can see we have inside parent different classes for this button. And button small, button primary are always there, but actually this button primary is this green background, and if we don't have it, then it's not button primary, but it is button outline primary. So we need to write this logic inside class condition. So what I want to do here is write class and as an attribute, and now here we can write in object our logic. So first of all, we have button class, and it is always there. This is why I simply put true. Now we have button small, and it is always there, then it is true. And now we have our logic. So here is button primary, and it is only there when we have is favorited. And we have now button outline primary, and it is not is favorited. So what does it mean? So these two classes we have always. Now here we have a logic. So if is favorited is true, then this class is there. If not, then this class is there. So let's check now if it works. As you can see, it is now green, and actually we have everywhere only this outline, and it is never green. This is actually strange because I liked some articles. So let's reload here the page. Okay, this is my feed. This is why it is green here. So if I will jump in global feed inside demo and just like the first article, and then we try and reload it in our project, you can see that this is green, which means the logic is correct. So here is a liked article, here is not liked article, and we have inside our counter. So all logic with class is correct. We are showing here favorites count, and we just need to change our styles based on the favorites count and is favorited. And here comes optimistic update. So what is optimistic update? This is something that helps to make our UI feeling better. What does it mean? Normally when a person clicks on the button, for example like, we send request to the backend, we wait for the success response, and then we change this button. Which means if person really fast in clicking like buttons, then it can be like half of a second or second between he clicks and sees the response. So he sees that he liked the article, and it gives the feeling that application is really slow. This is why optimistic updates are really needed in places where our content is not that important. For example, I would never make optimistic updates in login or registration or maybe payments, because there you really want to see the response from the server. But something like liking, we can simply do with optimistic updates. What does it mean? We directly, when user clicks, changes the state of our application or our component without waiting for API call. Which means we don't know if the request is success or not. We are optimistic about it. This is why it is optimistic update. But if it is successful, then we actually doesn't care, and we simply show at the beginning that the changes are already there. So let's check how we can do this. What's the idea? We click on handle like, and we want to change a property. We want to change is favorited and we want to change favorites count. But actually we can't change a props because this is forbidden, and this is really cool in Vue, and you need to create additional properties in order to do something and to change them. So what we want to do here is add data and inside create two more properties. Basically we want favorites count and is favorited, like two properties that we can change, because props you can't change, and this is actually good. So here I want to return an object and create two properties. And as we're doing optimistic updates, I will name this is favorited optimistic. And here by default we want to write inside this is favorited. And here we have favorites count optimistic. And here by default we will have this favorites count. So actually it doesn't make any difference in this case, we simply reassigned our properties, and now we can use everywhere is favorited optimistic, and here also, and here we have favorites count optimistic. But now the point is, of course it's looking the same, the point is that we can change these properties. So what we want to do now in handle like is check. So if this is favorited optimistic, so if this property is in true, then we want to make a dislike. So what dislike means, first of all we need to make counter smaller. For this we're writing this favorites count optimistic equals this favorites count optimistic minus 1, and else we want to make +1. So I will copy this, and here we have +1. So actually the logic is super simple. If we already like this article, we want to dislike it, which means make the counter smaller. If we didn't like this article and is favorited is false, then we click so it is true now, we need to increase our counter. And after this, in any case, we need to change is favorited property. For this, I will change it like this. So we can write here not this is favorited optimistic. So what does it mean? If it was false, then it will be true. If it was true, then it will be false. This is it. So you can use always bang just to assign different value. So here we are toggling between true and false. Now let's check how it works. So here we reload the page, and as you can see by default our article is here disliked because somebody created new article. So we click on it, and as you can see instantly we see the feedback, so it is greenish now and we see our count 1. Now we click again and instantly it is white and counter is 0. So as you can see for user it looks like super fast because there is no API call here, this is just plain JavaScript. So this is what is called optimistic updates. As you can see, we can simply click everywhere and it just works. But of course with this logic at some point we need to trigger our action. So actually every time when we click handle like, we want to dispatch an action. So we can simply do this just at the beginning like this, storm, and here will be dispatch. And here we want to dispatch our action types dot add to favorites, and here we need to provide two properties. First of all it was slug, so here is this article slug, and this is why we passed it inside our component. And the second is favorited, and is favorited is this is favorited optimistic. Just don't forget to put here optimistic because this is the property that we are changing. Now let's save this and reload the page. Of course action types are not defined, so here on the top we need to import action types from add store modules add to favorites. Now let's reload the page. As you can see, no errors here. Now I will make it bigger and click once to like the article. So if we check the network, here we have favorite request. So here is /API articles slug favorite, and this is post because we liked this article. And here inside Vuex we can see all our mutations. So here we can see that we have add to favorites, success, and somewhere here we have start. Actually I don't see start, I think we forget to add it. So here we click And here I don't see okay, here is add to favorite success, but we don't have start. So let's jump back in our module add to favorites, and yes, here at the beginning inside new promise we need to write context commit, and here we will have mutation type add to favorite start. So now it is easier to understand what's going on. Here we are in Vuex, we click on some article, and as you can see we directly have add to favorite start and then success. And as you can see we don't use this information from response at all. We can of course if we want to, but here we have optimistic updates and we simply think that this request will be positive, so will be success. And we just simply change with JavaScript the properties in our component, and this is how it works. So in this video we successfully created our add to favorites in really nice approach. So we can reuse this component everywhere because it knows by itself how to like and dislike things, how to communicate with backend, and we actually implemented it in optimistic update way. In previous video we successfully created our feature add to favorites. In this video we will create our last feature for this course, and this is user profile. So let's jump right into it. So as you can see I'm in demo real world IO, and here from the main page, if you are logged in you can jump on your profile here in the top bar. So here you can see headline, and here is my username, and here is my biography and image. We also have here edit profile settings link, but only if this is our profile. Also on this page we have my articles, and this is the API request where actually our feed is rendered. And we can click in favorited articles, and then the URL is the author and then /favorites. And here we see favorited articles of these users. And these are two different requests, so let's check this in network. When I reload the page, you can see here the request /API/articles favorited equals, and here is username. And if we will jump inside my articles, then the request is /API/articles author. So not username but author. This is the only difference. And actually everything is the same here. So we are getting the same response as always. This is just our normal feed, so we want to reuse it for sure here. Here we have pagination from the feed and so on. So this is our goal for this video. Actually, let's plan a little bit how it will work. So of course we will create additional page, but do we need a separate page for favorited articles and my articles? And I don't think so, because our headline is exactly the same on these both pages, and the only difference between these two pages is API URL from where we're fetching data. Which means we can somehow tune it and just check the URL to understand if we are in favorited route or not. And then we will simply render only one component. So let's jump inside our source, views, and here we want to create our new component. And let's name it userprofile.view. And first of all, of course, we need here a template. And let's close here template and template, and here we will have script. So here is script, and inside we want to export default our component, and here we have a name, and our name will be MCV user profile. Now let's add here some template just to check if our markup is working at all. So here is user profile page, and we need to change our router. So here in router index, I want actually to change two URLs. Here, as you can see, we have /profiles slug and /profiles slug favorites. Actually, we want here to use the same component, user profile. And here will be also user profile. And here on the top for this, we want to import our user profile from add views, and here will be userprofile.view. So as you can see, we created only one component, and inside we need to run some logic to distinguish between these two pages. So let's check if it's working. So if I will jump in my own profile, you can see here user profile, which means we can implement something in this component. But first of all, of course, we need to create API, then create new Vuex page, and only then bind our data to our component. First of all, let's create our API. So for this, we need to jump in source API and create new file, user profile.js. And here we actually need just one method to fetch user profile by slug. So here we will have get user profile method, and as a parameter we are getting slug. And we need here to import our Axios from @API Axios. And now inside our method we can return Axios get, and here will be our URL. So we want in this URL to write /profiles, and here will be our slug. And we need here then because we want to normalize our response. So here will be response data profile. Now here we will export as a default our get user profile method. So our API is completely ready. We have here only one request. Now we need to create Vuex in order to manage our actions and mutations. So here let's create user profile.js and think what properties do we need to create here at all. And as always, it will be really similar, and I think we can copy paste something, because actually we need data is loading and error, which means we can copy paste whatever we want, not article because we have here delete, but maybe something like popular tags. So here we have one get, one action, and 3 mutations. This is exactly what we need. So I will copy paste popular tags completely just to avoid copy pasting, because actually we will write completely the same code. First of all, here we have our API, user profile API, and here we import it from user profile. Now our state is exactly the same like everywhere. We have here data is loading and error. Now our mutation types will be get user profile. So let's change it. Get user profile start success and failure, and our module is user profile. So let's change it here also, and here on the bottom. Now here will be get user profile, and tags we don't need, and here will be get user profile success and get user profile failure. So our mutation types are there, we need also action type. So here will be get user profile, and we will name our module user profile, and here is get user profile. Now we need to think what will happen with mutations, and actually exactly the same stuff as always. So here we have get user profile start, and we are setting is loading to true and data to null. Then we have get user profile success, and we are getting back our user profile, and we are saving it inside data. And we have also get user profile failure, and we simply set is loading to false. This is it. Now we need to change our action. So here we want action types dot get user profile, and here we need a slug because we are getting user profile by slug, and this is what we need to give from our component. First of all, here we want to commit get user profile start as a mutation. Then here we want our service user profile API, and the method is get user profile, and inside we need to pass our slug. Then as a result we are getting back user profile, and here we are committing mutation type get user profile success, and we are passing inside our user profile. And we also need to resolve our user profile, and in catch it will be get user profile failure. As you can see, I didn't stop to show you something because we already did all this stuff in every module, so I don't think something need to be cleared once again. So as always, we have mutation, state, and action, and we export everything out. Now we just need in our import to edit here user profile from store modules, and here is user profile, and on the bottom we need to add it as our new field inside modules. And here we successfully created our Vuex state, and we need to bind it with our component. So let's jump inside our component. This is our user profile view, and here first of all on initialize we need to fetch our user profile. So here we can write mounted and inside make an action call. So for this we need this and then $store dispatch, and our action type will be action types dot get user profile, and here we need to provide a slug. And we already did this. The slug is this $route params.slug. So let's check now if it's working. Actually, we forget to import here action types. So we need to import action types from our store modules, and here will be user profile. Now let's check if we have some errors. Actually, user profile is defined but never used. This was inside user profile.js. Let's check this. Here is user profile module, and the error was in line 2. So somewhere on the top. Okay, I get some strange auto import, I think. I will remove this because we just need here user profile API. As you can see, no errors now, and I will reload our page, and here is our user profile. If we will click in network, you can see that we are making a request /API/profiles and my slug. So actually here is the profile that we need to render, and we are getting 4 properties here. So this is our normal profile, and inside Vuex we should see 2 mutations. So as you can see, user profile start and success, and after success we are setting inside our user profile somewhere here our data. So now we need to bind this data to our component in order to render some content. So let's do this now. We need to jump back inside our component and bind some properties from in computed property. So here we want computed property, and inside we need map state. So we already used map state. This is something to read state from the Vuex. So here is import from Vuex. And now here we need to spread our map state, and inside we will get 3 properties. As always, it will be isLoading, and we are reading it from state. So state user profile is loading. Then we need user profile, and from state we are reading state user profile data. And the last one is error, and here is state user profile dot error. So here we successfully binded 3 our methods, and we now can write our markup. So let's do this now. We need here in template to remove user profile first and write some basic markup. First of all, I want here div class profile page, and we want to render this page only if we have user profile, because this is the only thing which matters for us, and if we don't have user profile, it doesn't make sense to render anything. So here is if user profile. Now inside we have our div with class user info, and let's close this, and inside user info we have div class container, and inside our container it should be div class row, and now inside row we have div class call xs12, call md10, and offset md1. Now let's close our div with call, and inside we will have an image of user. So it will be image class user image, and here we want in source to write user profile.image. And as you can see here, we are sure that we have user profile because we have our if on the top. Now we need h4 tag, and inside it we will write our user profile.username. Now after h4 we need p tag, and inside we will render our biography. So here will be user profile dot biography. And now after this we need a div, and inside it we will write a placeholder follow user button, because actually we won't implement it in this video. This is why this is a placeholder for future. Also, as you saw here, when we are in our own profile, we have this edit profile settings on the right. So here we need to know if our current user is the user of current profile. So we need somehow to create a computed property which will show us this. And to do this, we need to compare username from user profile with username of current user. And for this, we need a getter to get a current user here in the component. So first of all, we need here to import our getter types from auth. And this is the problem. As you can see here, we have action types from user profiles, and now we have a collision or name collision. We have getter types, and then it won't be clear from what module we are importing them, because we are using here both modules. So I want here to name it differently. For example, we can name it user profile action types. And now here where we're using it, we can write not action types, but user profile action types. And now here we want to import our getters. So it will be getter types as, and here will be auth getter types. And we're importing them from add store modules auth. So our getters are there, and we need to use them in order to get current user. So here we're using map getters, and inside we want to get current user. And here we have auth getter types dot current user. This is it. So now we have our current user, and as always this is a synchronous call, so at the beginning it is null, and then this is an object. And the same is with user profile. At the beginning it is null, and then at some point we are getting this data. So we can create here one computed property, for example, is current user profile, which should return us true or false depending on the comparison. So first of all, I want to check if we have current user or this user profile. So if we don't have current user or user profile, we simply return false because we can't compare. If we have them both, so we can compare then current user username with our user profile username. And just to remind you, we already did this stuff when we checked inside article is author. We already created this computed property based on the article and current user. So here we're doing the same with user profile. Now let's continue with our markup. So here we had follow user button, and now we can create router link, and this link will be this edit profile settings link. So here we need to render it only if is current user profile is true. And this is exactly what we created a minute ago. So here I will close router link, and we need some classes here. So it is button, button small, button outline secondary, and action button. And now inside our router link, we want to write edit profile settings. And I also forget inside this router link to write to. So here we want to say that this is a URL name settings. So we have this name settings here inside our router. So if I will open our router, somewhere we have here settings, and the name is settings. So this is why it is going to settings. So here is our router link, then we have div, 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 and after actually the last div, we have one more div with class container. And inside this container will be our page with the feed. So here is our container, then we have div class row. Let's close our row. And actually, let's check how our page is looking like. So here I'm jumping inside our page, and we're getting error map getters is not defined. So we need here to import our map getters. And now let's reload the page. And as you can see, we are getting everything correctly. So here we have our headline as here, then image, username and biography, and edit profile settings button. Everything is working, but some class in this image is not correct because this image is not rounded. So let's check this out. Here I have image, class, user. It should not be image, but EMG. And now it should be fine. As you can see, it is rounded, so everything is looking as expected. Now let's continue our markup. So here we have container, then div class row, and then we have our div class call XS12 and call MD10 and offset MD1. Now let's close this div. This is our column, and inside our column we will have div class article toggle. And what is this? This is this part with toggle, so my articles and favorited articles. And as you can see, this is just two links with different URLs. So this is exactly what we are creating. Here is our div, and we have inside article toggle UL. So UL class nav pills and outline active. Now let's close this UL, and inside we're adding two lists. So we have li class nav item. Let's close this li, and inside we have router link. So it will be router link, and here we have two, and in this case we want name to be user profile, and here we need to pass inside params our slug. So here is slug user profile.username. So as you can see, we simply generate the link to the current page using current user profile. So here I am closing router link, and I hope Reader will do its best. So here we have our two, and we also need class, and it will be nav link. And what we want to do here is highlight active link, but we can do it later. So here is our first link. Now let's copy paste this li and render here the second link. So here we have name, and this is user profile favorites because this is other route. And we have here also slug user profile username and also nav link. What we forgot here is to write something inside. Here should be my posts. So this is how it should look like. And now on the second router link inside, we also want to render something, favorites posts. So now let's check how our page is looking like. As you can see, we have my posts and favorites posts, but none of them is active, but actually the URL is correct. You can see it on the bottom. So we will highlight it with active later. Now we can't do it because we don't get current route yet. So first of all, I want to finish our page. So here is our router link li ul div, and after div here we want to render our feed, and then we will get the whole feed out of the box. So what I want to do here is provide API URL, and this is the only thing that we need to provide in our feed. So for this we need somehow to generate our API URL. And just to remind you, it was different API URL for favorited and non-favorited route. So here we need to create computed property and inside calculate our API URL. So let's create this now. First of all, we want to know if this route has favorited in it or not. And this is actually quite easy to do. So here we can write a property is favorited. Actually, how did we name it? The route is user profile favorites. So let's name it is favorites. And here we have this route, and we can say path, and actually path is the whole path, so the whole URL that we have. And we can check here includes, and here favorites. So if we have URL like this, so with favorites/favorites, then this URL will return us true. And if our path now doesn't include favorites, then we are on this page, my posts, because actually we can render this component only in these two pages. So here we have is favorites, which means we simply can write here ternary operator. So if we are in favorites page, then the URL for API should be articles favorited equals, and here should go the slug. So the slug we have here in the route. But as you can see on mounted, we used it directly like this, and actually we need to create computed property because we want to use it in a lot of places. So let's create here slug, and inside slug we will just return what we have here. So here will be return this route param slug. So this is the slug of the user profile. Actually, the better name will be, for example, user profile slug. In this case, it is much clearer what it is about. So now here in mounted, we can use this computed property, and we can also, so with this, of course, and we can also use it here. So here we will have this user profile slug, and this is our URL for favorites. And then if we are not in favorites, then we have /articles, and here author equals, and here we will have this user profile slug. So what we are doing here, first of all, this is computed property. So every time when some part is changing, for example route, it will be recalculated. So here we are checking is favorites to know in what from these two URLs we are. And we are checking if we have favorites inside our route. Now we are checking, okay, if we are in favorites, then our API URL will look like this. If not, then like this. And for this, we need additional computed property, user profile slug. Now let's check if it's working. So as you can see, we don't have any errors, but it doesn't render anything. As you can see, we are getting an error, unknown custom element MCV feed. And this is happening because we didn't import it here. So here let's import MCV feed from add components, and here is our feed. And now we can create here components property, and inside we will have our MCV feed. So let's check now. We don't have any errors, and boom, out of the box everything is working, and here we can see our feed with pagination. And let's check the network. As you can see here, the URL is /API articles and author and my username. So as you can see, we're in my profile. This is why it is my posts. And if we will be in favorites post, and I will reload the page, you can see here that URL is favorited. So here we are getting articles that I personally favorited. And if you don't have any articles here, it means that you didn't like any posts. So you can jump in global feed, for example, and like some posts. So this is super cool from my perspective, because with this one line, MCV feed, we rendered our whole feed with pagination inside, and it was like super easy to reuse, because it is actually a smart component, so we should not think from where this data should come and so on. We simply put inside the API URL and everything is working. Okay, so here is our feed. It is rendered fine. But what we are missing here is the highlight where we are now. Are we in my posts or in favorites posts? And we can do this if we know our route name. And we already used route name previously in one of the videos. So here what I want to do is to create new computed property route name. And we can read this information from the URL. So here just this $route.name. And this is exactly the name how we specified it in router. And of course here is this. So now we can compare our route name inside our two links to know what page is active. So here, let's go inside our route link for my posts. And what we want to do is have attribute class. And here we want to say that class active will be there when route name actually equals user profile. And we want to do the same here in the second route link. And here the name should be user profile favorites. Now let's save this and reload the page. So as you can see now our link is highlighted, and now we jump in favorites and our other link is highlighted. So actually we can jump between our pages, but there is a new problem. As you can see on the bottom, and we can click and clean our network, I will click between our pages and nothing is happening in network. And normally we will assume that we need to refetch our data. And why it is not happening? The same problem as before. This is the same component and we have two different routes. But component is there and Vue thinks that if component is already mounted, it should not remount it. But of course this is not what we want. Actually component is fine, but we want to refetch data and re-render all this stuff. And actually we can easily achieve this because we can use watch, and we used watch previously. So let's check how we used it. Inside feed we had a watch for current page, but not for API URL. And actually API URL is one of the props, and we are passing different API URL inside. So let's check this out. Inside feed I will simply render here API URL as a prop. And when I reload the page, you can see it here. It is articles favorited and then my name. And here I am jumping to my posts and the API URL is changed. But here we didn't say that something should happen. Here we have watch only for current page. And we need to do exactly the same for our API URL. So when API URL changes, we want to call this fetch feed also. Now let's check if it's working. So we are inside my post and here is our request. Now we are jumping in favorites and now you can see that we are fetching something. And this is articles favorited and then my name. So this is now exactly correct API URL, which we passed when we switched the component. So this was super important because in other case our feed is not re-rendered when API URL is changed. Now we have one more error which might not be that obvious. So first of all I will remove from our feed from the top this API URL because it was only for debugging. And what is the problem? So let's clean everything, make it smaller, and here I am in my profile. This is fine. But let's jump inside home and we are now in global feed. So first of all I want to click in some user profile. So here I am in user profile of some author. And now let's clean the network and clean console. And now I will click in my profile. So here as you can see we have my posts and now I am clicking in my profile. And what is happening here is that our page was changed. Now the URL is correct. This is my profile. We refetched our posts, but this user profile didn't change. Why is this happening? Exactly the same problem with watch, because this component, in this case not feed, but user profile component, was already mounted. And it doesn't matter that we change the route, because this is exactly the same user profile component. So what can we do? We want actually to refetch user profile. So we want to do this, what we are doing on mounting when something is changed. And what is some unique thing that we can watch? And actually this is a slug, because as you saw here, first of all we were in the profile with some slug FSS and so on, and then I jumped in my own profile, which means we changed the slug. So what we can do here is move this code from mounted inside some method. So let's create here methods. And we want here, for example, name it fetch or get user profile, for example. And inside we will simply do this action. Something is not correct here. Why it's not intended? And this is our methods. So first of all, in mounted, we want to call this get user profile. And secondly, we want to have watch here. So we can, after computed properties, create new property and it will be watch property. And inside we want to watch our slug. Actually not slug, but user profile slug. User profile slug. And we are checking, okay, when we changed it, we want to call once again this get user profile. So what is happening? For example, we switched from one profile to other profile. This means that this route param slug is changed. This computed property will also change, user profile slug, and then our watch will be triggered because we are listening for the changes of this property, and then we will retrigger our get user profile. First of all, I have some parsing errors, and for sure I forgot comma. So this is methods. Methods actually is just a property, it's not a function. So here should be colon. Now, as you can see, I don't have any errors. And let's check once again. I am in home now. Here is global feed. I am clicking on some profile here. And actually it is 404, so it was deleted. Okay, let's try once again. Here is some user profile and it is rendered successfully. Now let's clean everything and click in my profile. And as you can see now, our profile was rendered. So here in network, we can see that we got a new request for user profile and for our articles. One, because we have this watch here, watch for user profile slug and get user profile. And second, because of this components feed, because here we have watch not only for current page, but for API URL. In this video, we successfully created our user profile page, as well as our favorited page. And as you saw, with good architecture, we can create new pages with Vuex and Vue in a matter of minutes or hours, because this is really all reusable, shareable, and it is super easy with computed properties and watch, change your code or react to some changes. You successfully finished my course about Vue and Vuex, so my congratulations! Together, we implemented a lot of different modules, features, made architectural decisions, planned our modules component, and now you should have enough knowledge to implement quite big projects in Vue and Vuex on your own. But of course, as a good teacher, I can't just say goodbye, and I need to give you some homework. So let's check what else we can do. As you remember, we created our feature with article page. And we have here the page where we rendered our content and we have edit and delete buttons. And here is how article is looking in demo real world IO. So if this article doesn't belong to us, then we don't have these buttons, but we have follow button and favorite article button. And these two buttons we didn't implement. So this is something that you can do and actually add to favorite article we already have. We simply need to provide some property to render this button differently, like full width, for example. And here on the bottom we also have some information. This is actually the same part like here on the top, and then we can add comments to our articles. And comments we didn't touch at all, so there is an API to create or get comments to article, and you can simply implement a feature to add new comments to the articles. Also, it is possible to follow a user when you are jumping inside its profile. As you can see in our case, we have here a placeholder. Actually, this is me, this is why I can't of course follow this user, but if I will just jump in some user here, as you can see, we have a placeholder for follow button and we didn't create it. So this is something that you can create on your own. So these are three features that are planned in this demo real world IO. But of course you can do much more. For example, you can extend this project and do something like admin pages with users there or comments and managing comments and managing admin pages and roles, whatever you want, just to improve your knowledge with Vue and Vuex. And of course, the best way to improve your knowledge is to create your own project from start, but with your own knowledge, which means you just need to take some idea that you want to implement and do this. But the most important point here is to implement the project that you want to do. It doesn't matter what it is, like maybe it is the place where you can buy tickets for your concerts, or maybe you want some library with books which will be online, or you want a clone of Twitter. It doesn't matter, it should be interesting for you. If it's not interesting, you simply can't do it. And then simply start with small features and then improve and make your project more difficult. And here are some ideas for projects if you don't have any ideas and you just need some inspiration. So, for example, you can start with your own blog, or you can make a clone of Netflix, like you have a player there and you can check and see most popular videos and so on. Or maybe it is actually a bookshelf where you can save your books and maybe read them there. It can also be a e-commerce shop where you can buy some stuff, add this to basket and make some orders. The most important that this should be a project that you really want to do. And I hope you like my course and you learned a lot from it. And I will see you in my next course.